22-year-old electrician, Ryan Barnello, is suing 23-year-old personal trainer, Jerry Dunn, for damaging his truck during a parking lot brawl.
Order.
Yeah, this is case number 375 on the calendar in the matter of Barnello versus Dunn. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Don't aggravate me. I have a bad throat today. Mr. Barnello.
Yes.
It's your claim that the defendant kicked your truck in a parking lot of a bar. He was a little drunk. Mr. Dunn says that he was, in fact, drunk, right?
Yes.
And he may have hit you, but he didn't kick your car. So let me hear it from the top. Date, time, place.
September 20th at 1 a.m. Myself and my friends were leaving the club. Jerry started elbowing one of my friends as we were leaving, and they had exchanged words. It escalated to the parking lot where they exchanged more words, and the police department broke it up.
So the police were there?
The police were there in the parking lot, yes.
Had you known him before?
No, I've never met him or seen him before.
All right.
And we were leaving. I was leaving in my truck by myself. My friends were walking along my truck. They were pretty angry at the time.
What do you mean they were walking along your truck?
They wouldn't get in my vehicle because they were pretty fumed because they had gotten to words with Jerry in the parking lot.
And they're walking alongside of your truck?
One of my friends was walking along the side of my truck.
Go ahead.
And I actually was parked two cars away from Jerry's vehicle and his friend, Chris, which was also the one that kicked my truck in. And we were pulling away, and I was trying to get my friend in the vehicle, and he was pretty heated. He was going to walk home, and I had the windows down. I heard them exchanging words out of their vehicle to my friend that was walking. And Jerry proceeded to get out of his truck with his friend Chris, and I got out of my vehicle to get my friend to leave, get in my truck, let's leave, We've already been warned once by the police. My friend wouldn't get in my vehicle with me, so I got back in my truck. As soon as I got back in my truck, Chris and Jerry Dunn ran up to my truck and started kicking my truck in as I was sitting in the driver's seat staring at him.
Where did he kick your truck?
He kicked my truck in the door and the extended cab of the truck. I have pictures.
Can I see the pictures, please? All right, Sheriff. Let's hear from you.
Well, we got to the nightclub approximately 10 o'clock that evening.
So you've been drinking for 3 hours?
Approximately, yes. We were leaving the nightclub, me and a friend of mine and our two girlfriends, and another friend of ours that was walking with us to our cars had a confrontation, I guess, with one of his friends. It wasn't me, okay? And after they had had words, the cops had basically came over and said, you guys stop it or whatever, because it was just words. No one had physically done anything yet. At that time, we get in our cars. I get in the back seat. We're leaving the club. We're still in the parking lot. We haven't left yet. And as we're pulling out of the parking lot, this gentleman basically cuts us off in his truck. He's leaving the parking lot and pulls right in front of our car, saying stuff to us outside of his window, still sitting inside of his truck.
He is?
Yes. His friends, like he said, were all outside. There was a bunch, the whole club was leaving at this time. So there was tons of people in the parking lot. And I guess it was, I don't know how many of his friends, 4 or 5 guys or so, were outside of the truck. At that time, the driver of the vehicle that I was in steps out of the vehicle and approaches his truck. As they are saying words to each other, I get out of the truck myself, and I'm coming around the truck, and there's tons of people at that time around both of our cars. And everyone's yelling, screaming, saying stuff to each other. At that point, everyone starts fighting. I don't know if it was him or one of his friends that I had actually gotten a physical confrontation with, but we ended up getting arrested that night. Me and the driver of the vehicle that I was in.
What were you arrested for?
Well, initially, we were being arrested. The cop says he's pressing charges on you guys for, hitting him or whatever, hitting his friend. And
you can't press charges for hitting his friend.
No, that's not correct.
So anyways, this is what the cop says to me.
What were you arrested for, sir?
Well, right here, he tells me it was drunk in public.
What happened with that case?
I went to jail that night, and they gave me this piece of paper, and it was basically a failure to appear for another traffic stop that I had had. They never actually arrested me for drunk in public either, or vandalizing his car or anything.
They gave you a desk appearance ticket. You were supposed to appear there on the 13th of November. What happened?
I went and appeared, and all I had to do was pay for a traffic violation that I had.
You have a police report.
I do not have a police report because I did not press charges for vandalism. And for one reason only, that the night they both agreed in front of the officers to pay me for the damages to my vehicle. And they offered me $1,000 cash if I was to come to their house that night. And the officers said there will be no money exchanged in our presence, that this matter will have to be taken somewhere else. And so I asked the officer for any type of information of showing of the incident, and he said he could not give me anything because I didn't press charges. And the reason why I didn't press charges is because they agreed to pay me when they were in the back of the car.
Who's they?
Jerry and Chris.
Did Chris pay you?
Chris has paid me his half of the...
When did Chris pay you?
I believe about 3 weeks ago.
How much did he pay you?
He paid me $2,300.
You the girlfriend? Step up. Tell me your name.
My name's Katie.
Katie what?
Katie Rainier.
You were there that night?
Yes, I was.
Were you drunk or sober?
I was sober.
I just want you to think about the moment. This is your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the back of a police car. Do you remember that?
Yes.
How many people were in the back of the police car?
2. Him and
Who?
Chris.
Who?
Jerry and Chris.
Anybody else taken into custody that night?
No.
Now, during the time that they were in the back of the police car, Katie, did you see the plaintiff?
Yes.
Did you see the plaintiff talking to a police officer?
Yes.
Did there come a time when the police officer let your boyfriend and Chris out of the back of the car?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So they took him away?
Yes.
Did they take you away that evening, sir?
Yes.
Where did they take you?
To Sacramento County Jail.
What about Chris?
Him too, yes.
Is it your testimony that after you had a conversation with the officer let him out of the car?
No, he didn't let him out of the car.
Oh. Well, that's what I thought.
The door was open.
Yeah.
And I was standing right by the door talking to them, and they were begging me the whole time, don't press charges, don't press charges.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, why do you think that Chris only paid half?
I have no idea.
Is it possible that it's because what he's telling me is accurate, that the two of you agreed to pay for the damage to his truck?
No.
I think so.
And later today,
Can I see a withdrawal from your bank for $240?
I don't have that. I got it from the ATM.
Well, if you got it from the ATM, you would have a record of that, sir.
Well, they give you
Listen
the
to me.
option
You
of whether
get
you
it?
can have it printed out or not printed out. And
Mr. Doherty, are you trying to dance around me, sir?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ryan Barnello says during an argument in a nightclub parking lot, his fellow clubgoer Jerry Dunn damaged his truck. Jerry denies ever touching the vehicle.
Why don't you have a seat? Where is your friend Chris?
He is at home, actually. He's back home.
As far as you know, Chris paid him $2,300?
Yes.
Why?
Because he kicked his vehicle and I didn't.
How much was the damage to the vehicle?
The estimate, I've had 2. One for $4,286 and one for $4,412.
Well, why do you think that Chris only paid half?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
No.
Is it possible that it's because what he's telling me is accurate, that the two of you agreed to pay for the damage to his truck?
No.
No?
No.
I think so. And I think that if I were to call Chris, that's exactly what he would tell me, that he agreed to pay for half the damage and you were going to pay for half the damage to the truck. That's what I think. And since I'm the one who's in charge of thinking here, I'm entering a judgment in the amount of $2,200. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The judgment was correct. You know, he did kick my truck in, and he's paying for it.
Next time I won't beat anybody up outside of a nightclub.
He never touched me that night, so I don't know what he's talking about.
I guess when you finish something instead of start it, you're the one who actually gets in trouble.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mason Wilson versus Wilson. Step forward, please.
Thomas Mason and his fiancée, Joanne Wilson, are suing Joanne's son, 21-year-old fast food worker Jesse Wilson. Joanne says during an argument, Jesse assaulted her.
You're Miss Wilson.
Yes.
Is that right? And this is your boyfriend. His name is Mason.
Yes, that's correct.
And this is your son.
Yes.
And it is your claim that your son assaulted you, which resulted in your hospitalization. You want him to pay for any unreimbursed medical costs that you had, as well as for something for pain and suffering. I don't know what Mr. Mason is doing here unless he paid some of the bills. Did you, sir?
I paid them, Your Honor,
You
yes.
paid it. You paid them, that's why you're here. Your son says that he didn't assault you, that you fell over a table because you were drunk. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did this incident occur?
January 15th. Yeah.
Where?
In my house.
Who was at home?
I was at home. He was there. In fact, he was leaving that day.
Who was he?
My son. And
Leaving permanently?
Yeah.
Why?
He was moving out.
Why?
Well, he thought $25 a week was too much. He said he should pay nothing to live with me.
How old is he?
He's 21.
Go ahead. So what
So
happened?
we got into argument that night, and
What did you get into an argument about?
miscellaneous things, and I quite don't remember. I remember falling, and I remember him picking me up, and he was saying sorry to me. He said, "Ma, I'm sorry," and he put me on the couch. After that, I don't remember nothing, except when going to the hospital, they had to put the thing around my neck. They had me in a board, and then they had to rush me from that hospital to another hospital.
The only thing you remember is him picking you up,
Yeah.
saying,
I remember him saying, "Ma, I'm sorry." He picked me up and put me on the couch. And then I woke up later on, and my boyfriend came later that day, that night, and he made me go to the hospital. I wasn't going to the hospital. I was dizzy and everything, but I told him I would be fine. And he told me, no, I think you better go to the hospital. Something don't look right.
had you been drinking?
Yeah, I had been drinking.
How much?
I had maybe a half a pint that night.
Half a pint of what?
Rum.
What time did you start drinking?
It was about 6 o'clock that night.
Do you drink every night?
No.
How often do you drink?
I drink on a weekend, occasionally on weekends.
You have a drinking problem?
No.
You have anything to drink today?
No.
All right, Mr. Wilson. Your mother says that you said sorry. You want to tell me what happened?
I had came home from work at the time of the day of my birthday, and
This was your birthday?
yes, my birthday. I had came home, right, and she was drunk because I smelled it on her breath. Me and her got into an argument over how stuff was going in the house. I told her
Like
I have
what?
like me, sometimes I might leave something around the house, something like a cup or a plate or something. I understand sometimes I do intend to forget stuff, but I always do what I have to do in the house, you know. And when she kicked me out, I was getting all my belongings, and she had grabbed me.
Where did she grab you?
She grabbed me in my left arm, and when I told her, "Can you get off me?" she did not want to let go. And when I took my arm like that to get her off me, she had fell back and lost her balance.
You didn't hit her, did you?
No, I would never assault my mother.
You never put your hands on her?
No.
Well, she doesn't remember what happened. All she remembers is falling, and you saying you're sorry. So what are we doing here? Mr. Mason, what are we doing here, sir?
Well, Your Honor, this has been going on for quite a while. It isn't just the first time. He broke a window once before in the house because he got mad.
But
I have bills here, and I have the original letter that I wrote to him, gave him plenty of time. All I was looking for was my original amount of money that I put out.
For what?
For the expenses of what it costs to take her to the hospital.
Just a minute. There's no proof he assaulted her, sir.
Well, I had asked her what happened when I came home. She called up this friend of mine. I was at his house, and I came home. She had told me what happened, that Jesse had pushed her, and I said, "You best you go to the hospital, get checked out." We went to one hospital, and they needed better equipment. They had to transfer her to another hospital, and they weren't sure if she would be paralyzed from the neck down or not. And like I said, it's not a question of just now. It's been a question of a problem with the $25 a week that he's paying rent. We're going to get television, the telephone, the whole thing over here for $25 a week. And then he wanted to live for nothing.
How long have the two of you been living together?
Over 2.5 years.
And whose house is it?
It's her apartment.
It's her apartment.
Yeah.
And he's not
So
on the lease.
just a second. So you're living in her apartment.
Half and half, Your Honor. I have my own apartment right around the corner.
What do you mean half and half?
I stay sometimes, a lot of times. I stay on the average 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time.
Listen to me. It's none of your business.
Okay?
This is between Miss Wilson and her son. Has nothing to do with you. Nothing. As far as I'm concerned, Miss Wilson shouldn't be here with her son today. She had a little too much to drink, and if she got into even a shoving match with her son and she fell, that's unfortunate. Probably was tipsy to begin with and fell. She shouldn't be fighting with her son. She shouldn't be fighting with her son on his birthday. And you shouldn't pour salt in the wound because you're not family. You don't precipitate coming to court when you're not even related. Precipitate a mother from bringing a lawsuit against a child. That doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't let anybody pressure you into bringing a lawsuit against your son, which you probably wouldn't have done on your own.
No, but I think he deserves it, especially when he busted my window. I wasn't even supposed to let him live with me. Housing don't want him there because he got kicked out of his sister's house because of the same problem.
Miss Wilson, let me tell you something. I'm not giving him any stars for good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long you've been drinking, but I would guess, based upon my experience in the courts, that you've been drinking a long time. Long time.
Okay.
That's not the way to bring up a child. So if you have a child that is troubled at age 20, you look to yourself and say, what did I do as a mother? Was I drinking most of the time? Was I doing the right thing most of the time? And if you were not, you don't precipitate a lawsuit because you set zero example for him. Just want you to think about that. Your lawsuit's dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's got to smarten up. It's as simple as that.
I understand that's her boyfriend. He has nothing to do with it.
This isn't the first time this is taking place.
He should stay out of it, like the judge said.
He's had trouble in the apartment before.
I don't know how my mother could make some man come in between her son and her.
Recording engineer Nathaniel Green is suing his ex-girlfriend, activity supervisor Takai Tomlin, for the value of his jewelry and for the return of his cat named 2.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 16 on the calendar in the matter of Green versus Tomlin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Green, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time, broke up, she moved out.
Yes, Your Honor.
And it is your claim that she came back sometime later and took several items from the house that belonged to you. One was your cat, and the other is some jewelry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant says that the cat really belonged to both of you, but was more attached to her. And as far as the jewelry is concerned, her answer is sort of, she took it.
Well,
so let me get some dates from you. When did you start to live together?
well, this is probably like back in 99,
And when was the cat purchased?
July 2000.
Did you purchase it from somebody?
Yes, I purchased from a good friend of mine. I have the receipt showing that I purchased the cat.
What kind of cat was it?
Snowshoe cat.
Snowshoe cat.
Yes, ma'am.
Heard of that. Is that a pedigree cat?
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Well, I have a picture too, Your Honor, of the cat.
Could I see it?
And on the back of the picture, Your Honor, if you would take a look, the defendant wrote some very disturbing things to me when she stole the cat from me.
Okay, so now I see the cat. When did the two of you separate?
November 2001, we separated.
Okay, is that when you moved out?
Mm-hmm.
Was it just the two of you living together?
Us and our 2 children.
You have 2 children together?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are the 2 children?
2 and 3 years old.
And you took the children with you?
At the time, yeah.
Where are they now?
Right now, they're with a babysitter.
But I take care of them, they live with me.
The children do live with him.
They live with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that by court order?
No, ma'am.
That was by agreement of the 2 of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when did you take the cat?
The beginning of January, when
Why?
I came back to get my things. The main reason for me leaving in the first place is because I found out he was cheating on me.
Okay.
So when I came...
But you came back in January.
And I got my
Excuse me,
things.
Your Honor. That's not true. I wasn't cheating on her. It was a rumor that her friends
No.
spread to her.
No.
Okay, I'm not going there.
Okay.
I'm talking about the cat.
Right.
You came back in January. You had not taken the cat in November.
No.
So you came back in January. Why did you take the cat in January?
When I came back in January, I got all of my things. I picked up all of my things and everything. I just felt the cat would be better off with me.
Excuse me, Your Honor. May I say something? Before we even started, dating, I had another cat, and my cat passed away. I bought this cat, and, it took a lot of pressure off of me from my first cat being deceased, and it meant a lot to me sentimentally. And I don't understand why this woman would take my cat from my house.
She took the cat because she was angry.
I understand that, but she...
How's that? She took the cat because she was angry.
Your Honor, I have some letters that the defendant was writing me, threatening me about my cat.
Let me see that.
And things that she took from me.
I'm not going to get to the other things until I finish with the cat.
Okay.
Do you understand? One thing at a time. You were very angry.
Excuse me. Shh.
All right. Now let's get to the jewelry. When you came back in January, you took some jewelry that belonged to him. Tell me what you took.
It was a chain with a pendant and a Rolex watch. It was in a box.
And the Rolex watch belonged to?
Nathaniel.
Where did Nathaniel get the Rolex watch from?
He says from his father.
Why did you take the jewelry? For the same reason you took two?
At the time that I took the box and everything, I was angry. I didn't care about how he felt or anything because...
Well, you wanted him to feel badly.
Yeah.
Listen to me. You have two children together. Do you visit your children?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so you see them regularly?
Mm-hmm.
What's supposed to happen is that when a relationship doesn't work out, I don't care how long it is, in this case it's since 1999, you're not supposed to go through hating. You're supposed to say, it didn't work out, terrible, he hurt me, he violated me, but I have two children with him, and I want to have a reasonable relationship with him just for the sake of the children. So I don't want to do anything that's going to, long-term, continue this hate. Do you understand?
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Mr. Green, you feel as if you need a cathartic experience here. Is there anything else you want to say to me?
Yes, as far as my Rolex watch, my father had left it to me. He had passed away, and it was real sentimental to me. And this woman, she hurt me. I really do still love this woman because we have kids and I want to work it out, but I can never trust her again. I don't even think she has my stuff anymore.
She has your stuff.
I have the cat.
Where's the other stuff?
I pawned it.
Where?
MCDs, I think it's called.
When did you pawn it?
February.
When does the ticket expire?
I'm not sure.
I'm never going to see my stuff again, Your Honor. I'm never.
I'm really not sure.
Well, didn't you think you should find that out before you came here today? How much did you pawn it for?
The watch was $4,000. The chain was $1,900, I think.
And what'd you do with the money?
Well, right now, like I said, I'm in between places. That's why the children are with him, so...
She has no stable life, Your Honor.
No, I don't, honestly.
Well, I'm asking you, what did you do with the money?
At that point, I bought some things.
She's a liar,
I was
Your
staying
Honor.
with someone,
She's a
so
liar.
I gave my sister some money also.
Listen, let me tell you this, Mr. Green. Your lawsuit seeks $2,600 from Ms. Tomlin. That's
Right.
what you're suing her for.
Right, ma'am.
Okay, that has nothing to do with the cat because you're talking about the jewelry. She got a lot more for the jewelry. Now, I don't know whether she can get it back. I'm not sure how long these pawn tickets are good for. Whether they're good for 30 days or 60 days
I've been trying to get my
days.
jewelry back all this time, Your
Well,
Honor.
she made a very, very bad mistake.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
Did you ever take her out for dinner?
No, not really. I ain't spend no big money on her.
I'm not talking about big money. I'm asking you, went on a date. Did you pay?
Not really, because she wanted to pay for everything. She wanted to pay for everything, you know.
All right, listen, you must be absolutely wonderful.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nathaniel Green says ex-girlfriend Takai Tomlin stole his jewelry and his cat named Tu. Takai says she only took what she was entitled to.
You have to start to be smart, Mr. Green. I said it to her. I don't know if she's accepting it, but you have to be smart. Right now you have your two children living with you. They have a mother. The mother sees the children. I don't know whether this relationship will come together again. It may. In the meantime, she has to do the right thing. Give you back your cat, do you understand? and give you back your jewelry. Miss Tomlin, do you understand?
Yes.
And then you will not be so angry with her. She may still continue to be angry at you, but she will be able to see her children with a lighter heart. You're not supposed to continue to dredge up the past.
I tried working with her. I tried working with her. I tried getting back my stuff for a matter of time.
Sorry, Mr. Green, I really thought I could get at least your father's watch back for you. But if she sold it, there's nothing I can do for you, except give you the judgment that you're requesting and suggest to you that she did the wrong thing. I think that at this point, at least I hope she knows she did the wrong thing. In the scheme of things, I know that you're hurt because you don't have your stuff, but you have the most important possessions, and that's your 2 children. Do you understand?
Right. Your Honor, how am I sure that I'm getting my cat back, Your Honor?
I will prepare an order that you get your cat back, and you can use a sheriff or a marshal to ensure
And
that
I've been trying to be nice to this woman, work with this woman, and she know that how I feel about my cat.
Mr. Green, all I can do is prepare an order. If she refuses to give you the cat, I think it's a big mistake, because you have custody of your 2 children. If she wants to continue to be able to enjoy a reasonable flow of visitation with the children, with the person who has custody, that's their father, then what she's supposed to do is do the right thing. You did the wrong thing with regard to the jewelry. Now you better do the right thing with regard to the cat, so that he doesn't have to go and get a marshal to enforce the order. Do you understand, Miss Tomlin? He has physical custody and takes care of the most precious things that the 2 of you have together, and that's your children. Not the cat, and not the Rolex, and not the chain and pendant. So you're supposed to do the right thing, not the wrong thing. Grow up. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested in your suit, $2,600. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
My father's watch and my cat, she knew how I really felt about it, and she really wanted to hurt me, and she succeeded.
Now knowing I have a conscience and I feel bad that I hurt him. It's too bad he didn't feel that way about me.
She said if I keep on calling her trying to get my stuff back, I wouldn't get my stuff back, and I found my cat in the pet cemetery.
Everything I wrote and said, I did out of anger.
When you have kids, try to work things out, you know, because you're hurting the kids in the long run.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Higgs versus Culpepper. Step forward, please.
20-year-old college student Jennifer Higgs is suing former roommate, 18-year-old student Chantel Culpepper, for destroying her personal property. Chantal denies the charges.
Miss Higgs, you and the defendant had been college roommates. Is that right? There were 3 girls in your suite?
No, there were 4.
According to your complaint, you had the defendant and at least one of the other gals moved out of the suite because you believed that one or both of them were involved in stealing some of your property.
Yes.
That's not what the lawsuit is about. The lawsuit is about some property of yours that was later vandalized.
Yes.
And you believe that the defendant was responsible for that. And there were 4 girls in the room.
Well, it was more like an apartment with 3 bedrooms. I had a single bedroom with myself. Chantal shared a room with Jasmine, and then there was another roommate named Michelle, who had her own room.
Now, there came a time when you found some of your items missing, and then later found your ATM card missing. And when you subsequently went to check, there was some $1,400 missing.
Yes.
Now, what made you think that the defendant and or this other young lady were involved in taking your credit card?
Because that occurred during February of this year. In January, our other roommate, Michelle, had moved out. So basically, it was myself, Chantal, and Jasmine who were in the apartment.
And you made a report of that?
Yes.
To whom?
To the campus police.
What happened as a result of that?
The bank took a while to get back to the detective, and they only keep the video for about a month. And by the time the bank got back to the detective, the tape was already erased.
Well, since there was really no proof that they had taken your credit card, tell me on what authority you believe they were in fact evicted from the apartment.
Well, basically we weren't getting along. Other things became stolen. Shower products were being used. My food was constantly being eaten.
Okay. So they left. Now, what kind of damage was done to your things in the apartment?
The new handle was broken off of my bedroom door. It had been locked when I left. All the wires to the electrical things in my room were cut, like my TV, my PlayStation, my clock radio. Yes, it was actually cut.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Higgs says former college roommate Chantal Culpepper vandalized her property by cutting the cords to her electronic equipment.
When had the girls been evicted from the apartment?
Earlier that day, Chantal was helping Jasmine move her things out, but Chantal's stuff was still in the apartment when they left.
Was the front door to the apartment, was that locked when you came home?
Yes.
Other than the key that you had and that Chantal had and that Jasmine had, did anyone else have a key to your apartment other than management?
No.
Do you have any documentation for me, photographs or anything
Yes,
else?
I do have
I'd like to
photographs
see, please.
of the actual night. And I also have police reports.
See the photographs first. Okay, Ms. Culpepper, now I'll hear you.
Hi. First of all, we was friends, we was cool, we threw her a birthday party, you know, went out, hung out, everything. We didn't find out about the credit card until housing told us that Jennifer had been going about writing down reports and everything, and we thinking that we was cool, you know what I'm saying? We were just friends.
Let's get to the day that her property came up vandalized.
We wasn't under the impression that her property was vandalized because we had moved, Jasmine had helped me move out later on that night because we was already being kicked out of that apartment due to her saying that we was wasn't getting along.
Are you living together, the two of you?
No.
You still friends?
Yes.
Have you remained friends?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. One of the two of you cut the wires in her room.
No, we did not.
Yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. You were angry.
About what?
About what? About being evicted from the apartment. 3 keys.
My wire was cut
3
too.
keys. I don't believe that she cut the wires on her own property and broke down her door. The police report indicates that the front door to the apartment, which was opened with a key, was not damaged. The only door lock that was damaged was the door to her room. The only people that were angry about the situation, as you've just described, you thought everything was cool, everything was wonderful, and all of a sudden you're evicted, were the two of you. The problem is, she doesn't know which one of you did it, or which one of your boyfriends did it, or whoever was helping you move did it. She doesn't know that. But it's clear to me that one of the two of you know who did it. No question in my mind, madam.
Okay. But like I
Good.
said, we was moving out that night. Nothing was wrong with the apartment when we left.
So you mean somebody else just went in there?
No, she has the window onto the balcony. Anybody could have broke in there. She could have came in there.
Let me tell you why nobody
don't
did
know.
that except the two of you. Because if they came in to steal something, they would have come in and taken the property. They didn't take it. All they did was vandalize it so she couldn't use it. Now that's done by somebody who doesn't like her. Do we understand each other?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Well then, what year in college are you?
I'm a freshman, going on to my
Well, maybe
sophomore.
you'll understand when you're a junior. What made you choose this defendant as opposed to suing both of them?
Because with the front door, it actually records whose key was used.
Oh, and what time they used it?
Yes, I have a report from school that shows the times that she entered it. She entered 5 times while I was gone that night.
So that's why you chose her.
Yeah.
Are you user 1 or 2?
I don't know. They never gave me a copy of that. They said that was only for the plaintiff. They never gave me no information on
Well, let me give you this. You are user 2.
I was moving that night along with Jasmine helping me. So I had to come in and out the door. We are not allowed to keep the door open.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I did use my key.
Mm-hmm.
When I came home, my wire was cut off my TV.
Did you make a report of that?
Yes, I did.
When?
May 12th.
The first report that you made that you had vandalized property was May 12th?
Mm-hmm.
This happened April 12th.
Okay.
So after they said her room was vandalized, you said my property was vandalized too?
Yeah, that's the whole reason
What
why
I'm
I
saying
moved.
to you is before you knew that her property was vandalized, when you first saw your TV wire cut, did you immediately call housing and say somebody's
No, I did
vandalized
not.
my... Of course not. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $370. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I went to my new apartment, all of a sudden her wires come up missing and cut and vandalized. That girl knows she did it.
Why would I cut my own cord?
She's gone in the head or something. I don't know why she didn't like if we was cool with her.
Anything personal, keep it locked some way real safe because something like this could happen.
17-year-old John Geary and his mother, waitress Tori St. Clair, are suing 17-year-old Aaron Roberts and his mother, restaurant manager Diane Boland, for the cost to repair their car. Aaron and Diane are countersuing for court fines and punitive damages.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 130 on the calendar in the matter of Geary St. Clair versus Roberts Boland. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
John gave Aaron the keys to his car, which is your car.
Our car.
How old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
So it's your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Aaron trashed the car. You want Aaron's mom to pay for the trashed car.
Yes, ma'am.
Aaron's mom says John should never have given him the keys to the car, that he knew he didn't have a driver's license. Therefore, you are responsible. And she is counterclaiming because Aaron got a whole bunch of tickets and fines as a result of driving this car without a license. And she is counterclaiming for the cost of those tickets, etc. Is that right?
Correct.
And just so that I understand, you believe that your son has no responsibility with regard to this accident, that it's totally Aaron's fault, and you believe that the accident is totally John's fault for giving him the keys to the car, and that they actually should pay you for the cost that you had to absorb for the tickets that your son got. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. I think they're both responsible.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, if you think they're both responsible, how could you be counterclaiming?
Because I think that John is just equally as responsible as Aaron is for the tickets that Aaron incurred. If he hadn't given Aaron the keys to the car, it wouldn't have happened.
Okay. Tell me the circumstances surrounding John, you getting the, giving the keys to Aaron.
Well, what happened was the defendant and I we had a couple friends over at another friend's house. We had gone to buy some alcohol earlier that evening. We had the plaintiff's sister's roommate buy it.
And you got drunk?
Yes.
Now, Aaron, you acknowledge that John was drunk. Is that right? Say that in your papers.
Earlier that night.
He was drunk and sick. You said he got sick.
Yes.
Were you drinking?
I had a shot.
A shot of what?
Vodka.
Well, you say you were sober. Were you sober?
Yes.
And he was drunk?
Around midnight.
Don't try to be smart with me, Aaron. I just want to explain that to you. Do not be smart with me. What time did you get the keys to the car?
It was around 3 o'clock.
Where was John sitting, standing, or lying when you got the keys to the car?
We were upstairs.
Upstairs where?
I was using the bathroom when my friend Brandon asked him if I could drive his car to the gas station.
Where was he?
He was standing outside the bathroom with Brandon.
So you didn't ask him for the keys?
No.
Some third party did?
Yes.
Now, why did you take the keys to the car if you have no driver's license?
Because I wanted to drive to the gas station.
Well, that was wrong.
I know this.
That was wrong. You took the keys to the car. You had no driver's license. You had no right to be driving a car. You had some alcohol to drink. So why did you take the keys? Why did you get behind the wheel of a car? Hama?
I don't really know.
Now, what happened when you got into the car?
I drove the car.
What happened?
Well, when the accident happened?
Yeah.
Well, we were driving down the street, and he couldn't get the CD out of the CD player. So I bent over, and I was messing with the CD player. And I looked back up, and I noticed that it went from 2 lanes down to 1 lane. So I swerved over, and I over-swerved, so I went to swerve back, and the car skidded out of control.
So let's see what you did, Aaron. You took keys to a car to drive it, despite the fact that you didn't have a license. You had alcohol to drink, and I would make a good wager that you had more than 1 shot of vodka that night. Got behind the wheel of the car. You weren't paying attention to what you were doing. You were fidgeting around with a CD because you wanted to play music, right? You weren't looking where you were going, and you got into an accident, right?
Right.
Okay. Now we got the fault on your side. Now let's hear from you, John. Tell me about how Aaron got the keys to the car.
Well, first of all, we weren't upstairs and he wasn't going to the bathroom. I had been drinking really heavily. I probably had close to maybe 7 or 8 shots and a few
Wrong.
beers.
And that was what?
It was wrong.
Right.
And I was laying down on our friend's guest bed at the house we were staying at, drinking and everything. And him and another friend of mine, the plaintiff, had came and asked me for the keys. I was very incoherent. They had said, John, we're going to go a couple blocks away to a Quick Trip, get some Coca-Cola. I'm like, okay, be back in 10 minutes.
Why did you give him the keys to the car? You knew he didn't have a license?
I did not know he had a license.
That he didn't have a license?
I didn't know that he did not have a license.
Earlier that night, he let me drive his car, and I told him I did not have a driver's license.
Well, tell me about that. When earlier did you drive
It was
the
around
car?
like 6 o'clock.
Well,
He
now I
let me
want you
drive
to
his
tell
car.
me about that earlier incident. Tell me about it.
He let me take his car for...
No! Tell me where you were, what you were doing, and the exact conversation when you asked him for the car to borrow the car.
I was using the bathroom upstairs, and when we asked him...
No, don't help him out. He's in the bathroom a lot. Earlier that evening, about 6 o'clock, you were in the bathroom.
No, not that time.
I'm talking about that time.
Well, I didn't know that. But that time, I don't remember where we
You
were.
remember. Start remembering.
I don't remember.
Remember. I'm telling you to remember. If you don't remember, then how do you remember, sir, that you said to him, I don't have a license, but can I have your car
I wasn't
anyway?
the only one that said it to him.
What?
I wasn't the only one that said it to him that
I
night.
want to hear what you told him.
I already told you.
No, you didn't tell me how you got the keys to his car the first time, sir.
I don't remember why I was driving the car the first time. But I did.
Did he drive your car before?
No.
He doesn't remember. He doesn't remember it didn't happen. Neither did it happen that he told you that he didn't have a license. How old are you?
17.
Can I see the damage done to the car, please?
Pictures? Like a police report?
A little bit of everything.
Here, I'm sorry.
Hit and run. You mean after you had the accident you took off?
I walked down to the gas station. The car was locked.
And running, according to the police. So you locked the car running.
When we hit the curb, the car tipped over on its side. We climbed out the top. We tipped it back over. It was still in gear, so the doors automatically locked on it. We could not get back inside.
Well, the police officers certainly smelled alcohol on you. And you were going very fast, according to the skid marks. Much faster than the 40 or 50 that you told the policeman you were going.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They were all drinking. Your son is 17 years old. He had no right to be drinking and drunk.
And later today,
My daughter's only 2 years old. She was abusing my child, and I wasn't going to let my child stay there and be abused.
She said, call your husband, call your husband. She think I was calling him. I was really calling the cops.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old John Geary says former friend, 17-year-old Aaron Roberts, drove his car drunk and wrecked it. Aaron's mom says John gave him the keys.
Your Honor, a lot of the damage was underneath the vehicle, which we could not get pictures of because of the semen underneath.
Mm-hmm. Can I see your estimates, please? What year car is this?
93.
Was it fixed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me tell you what my ruling is. Let me address the counterclaim first. Your counterclaim is dismissed in its entirety. As outlined to you earlier, your son did all the wrong things. He's 17 years old. He was drinking. He took a car. He should not have taken the car. He had no license. He was inattentive in driving that car. He was speeding. He had an accident. His fault. He pays the tickets. He pays the fine and gets a suspension on whatever license he might get in the future. I'm sure he's not going to get a license when he wants to, and that's just ducky with me. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Now let's go to your claim. You're going to get something, but not all of it. Your son is 17 years old. He had no right to be drinking and drunk. He lent the keys to his car to someone else who he also knew had been drinking, because that's what they were doing all night. They were all drinking. So, if he had been not doing the wrong thing as an underage drinker, this whole accident wouldn't have happened. It's more his fault than his fault. But he has a certain responsibility. When you give someone a car, that person has to have total responsibility. If he had driven the car home and it had a terrible accident and someone would have been killed, he would have spent some time in jail. Good amount of time. Well, he knew that he had been drinking because that's what they were all doing there that night.
I never saw him take a drink, Your Honor.
You don't have to see him take a drink, sir. That's what everybody was doing at the party or whatever gathering you were having. He'd been drinking all night. You don't have to see him. You weren't aware enough to say to him, have you been drinking at all before I give you the keys to the car, whether you knew he had a license or not? Certainly, if you hadn't been drinking, you would have noticed that he had alcohol all over his breath because the police officer noticed it. You were in no condition to notice it. But you have a certain responsibility. It cost your mother $4,276 to fix this car. And I'm issuing a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,200. The rest of it, I suggest you work off and pay back your mother. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Excuse you may step out.
He told me it had been an accident.
That's something a mother never wants to hear.
They both were guilty. They both did wrong.
4:30 on a Sunday morning. Do you know where your son is?
Legal assistant Robbie Gibbs is suing her former babysitter, 16-year-old Clarissa Thompson, and her parents Ethel and Paul Thompson. Robbie says, while babysitting her children, Clarissa ran up her phone bill. The Thompsons are countersuing for their daughter's unpaid babysitting fees.
Order. All rise. This is case number 79 on the calendar, the matter of Gibbs versus Thompson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Gibbs, the defendant's daughter, I assume this young lady.
Yes.
Is a babysitter for you.
Briefly, yes.
And your lawsuit wants her parents to pay for the following, because she's a minor.
Correct.
She ran up a phone bill from your house?
Mm-hmm.
So you want them to pay for the phone bill?
Correct.
And you want a return of the money that you paid her for babysitting?
Yes.
Because you say she was not a good babysitter.
Not exactly because she wasn't a good one, but more or less she was not attending to them.
Okay, that's your lawsuit. The Thompsons have a counterclaim, and the Thompsons want you to pay more for babysitting, because they say that you owe their daughter for babysitting. And they say that they also want punitive damages because they say that you were a bad influence on their daughter, which they will explain to me. So let's see where we can fix some responsibility here. What is your first name?
Clarissa.
When did Clarissa start to babysit for you?
Early February. I probably have an exact date in my calendar. Yeah, early February, like around the 9th, I believe, is the first time she babysat for me.
And how did you find her?
They lived above me in the apartment complex and had talked about babysitting and asked her to come over a few times prior to that.
Who did you talk to?
Clarissa.
Directly?
Yes.
So that all the arrangements that you made were with Clarissa?
Yes, ma'am.
And you arranged a fee?
Yes. After about a week or so, we decided that I would just go ahead and give her $30 a week because I was using her for an hour here, an hour there during the week.
So far, Clarissa, is that correct, that she was going to pay you $30 a week?
No, it is not.
Well, what was she supposed to pay you?
Well, she agreed to pay me $20 every time I babysat for her, which led to almost every day.
Really? $20 a day, even if you only babysat for an hour?
It was more than an hour. I would stay overnight sometimes because she would come home so late.
So starting the beginning of February, she started to babysit for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right, Clarissa?
Yes, I started February 12th, actually.
Okay. Did she babysit for you in March?
Yes, she did.
Is that right, Clarissa?
Yes.
And you got paid?
Not really. She only paid me like once, and that was $60.
In all the time that you babysat for her?
Only $60.
Really?
Yes.
What about April? Did she babysit for you?
No,
in
ma'am.
April?
I received my first phone bill on March 24th.
And that's when you stopped the babysitting?
Actually, I had stopped babysitting about a week prior to that. I had come home and my 2-year-old had burned a popsicle stick on the stove. He said he was cooking it.
Okay. And how many weeks in total had she babysat for you?
Approximately 4 or 5.
How many weeks?
6.
Let's go through your book and figure out exactly how many weeks she babysat for you.
Would you like the book?
Yeah.
I didn't write down always when she babysat. I know I have the first few times written down.
She babysat every week for you after you hired her. She babysat for you for 5 weeks. Now, according to you, you were supposed to pay her $30 a week.
February 22nd was the first time I gave her $30. So I would imagine it would have been the first part of that week that we had made that agreement.
Well, then it's 4 weeks.
Okay, so
4
it's about a
weeks
week.
times 30 is $120. Now, how much had you actually paid her?
I've actually paid $140 because of the time prior to that.
So according to your records, you're all paid up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, tell me about the phone bill.
Clarissa would use the phone when she babysat, and from the very beginning I told her I did not have a problem with her using the phone, not to make long-distance calls. I'm a single mother. I don't have means to pay for long distance. I don't use long distance myself. I received my first bill on March 24th, I believe it was, that I put on there, and the long distance charges for that month were $308.40.
Who were you calling, Clarissa?
It was an ex-boyfriend of mine at the time.
Did you know that that was the wrong thing to do?
When I first started babysitting for her, she told me that I had all privileges of the phone. She never told me not to make long-distance calls.
Well, did you make those long-distance calls in your own house?
Sometimes.
What do you mean sometimes?
Well,
did you ever get a phone bill for $300 a month?
No, ma'am.
No, of course not. Don't fool around with me, Clarissa. Don't fool around with me. Okay, so that's $308. Was that the total phone bill?
No, then I received one in mid-April for $31 in long distance, $87 in collect calls, and...
Was the boyfriend making collect calls to you?
No, he always called me direct.
So nobody called you collect?
No.
Does this have the number of the...
Yes, it does.
Is it the same number that she
No,
called?
ma'am, it's not. It's a Fresno number. And I asked Clarissa, have you been accepting collect calls from this number? And she says, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. And I have here $85 in collect calls. There's...
Well, she says she doesn't know whose those are, but it really doesn't make any difference.
They're not mine.
Let's say they're Clarissa's. Why should her parents be responsible for that?
Because she's a minor.
No, you're responsible for it. And I'm going to tell you why you're responsible for it. Because you have a mechanism where you can put on your phone a block so that you can't make long-distance calls.
I've never had a need for that.
Well, of course
I
you've
make long-distance occasionally.
Let me explain something to you. Your business arrangement was never with Clarissa's parents. Your business arrangement was with Clarissa. And if you want to ensure that things in your house are not abused, you have to take steps to do that. Her parents can't come into your house and do that. You have to do that. They are not responsible for the long-distance call made by their daughter in your house. You're responsible. You have to be prudent and vigilant, make sure that the phone isn't used, put the phone away, lock up the phone, disconnect the phone, do whatever you want to do with it. But there is no way that you are going to hold the Thompsons responsible for her calls that she made.
I had
not going to happen.
the agreement with her mother at one time, though, Your Honor.
I don't care whether you discussed an agreement with her mother or not. They're not responsible. You're responsible because they have no ability to see to it that in your house the phone isn't abused. They know how to do it in their house because her mother wouldn't tolerate it. Right?
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You think you're entitled to more money?
Well, yeah.
Really? How much do you think she owes you?
Well, see...
Give me an idea.
I say about over 600.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robbie Gibbs says former babysitter 16-year-old Clarissa Thompson ran up her phone bill with long-distance phone calls. Clarissa says Robbie still owes her money.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, he would call her directly when I was there.
So?
So I never had any clue that she was calling him or making
Neither
phone
did her
calls.
mother. Neither did her mother. You want to take care of your phone? Lock it in your drawer. It's not a mother's fault. And you'll know better next time. You hire a babysitter, you take out the phone. Or you put a block on it. You say you can't make long-distance calls. That's it. She's not legally responsible. And I can't find that her parents are responsible because you have the responsibility of ensuring that when you hire a teenage babysitter and you know that they sit on the phone and they can sit on the phone for hours, you make sure that they can't get to your phone. All right. Now, you want to tell me why you think you're entitled to any money back from the money that you paid her for babysitting?
Because she wasn't babysitting. She would go in my room and shut the door and use the phone. I came home on an occasion when that happened.
When was the first time you came home and found her?
It was about 2 weeks before I had her quit babysitting, and I told her she was not welcome at my home anymore. Her mother came down. We talked about it. Her mother assured me that it would not happen again. The following week is when I came home and my son had been burning a popsicle stick.
So? Then you fired her.
And then I fired her, yes.
So why do you think you're entitled to anything back?
I just put it in there because I thought that I paid her for services that were not rendered.
You should have been more vigilant. If I came home and found my two babies weren't being cared for by a babysitter, I would say thank you very much. I'm paying you for the day. You're not welcome back here
Which
anymore.
is what I did.
No.
And then her
you
mother
had a
came down and
conversation
spoke
with
with
her
me.
mother, and her mother assured you it wasn't going to happen again. Come on. Get real. All right. Now let's get to your counterclaim, if you're serious about it. You think you're entitled to more money?
Well, yes.
Really? Why don't you tell me why you think you're entitled to more money?
Well, because I did babysit for the kids, you know, like, because most of the time she was barely in there. She'd send her oldest son to come get me at 6:30 after she got off work, and then she'd be gone all night.
How much do you think she owes you for babysitting?
Well, see...
Give me an idea.
I say about over $600, but I'm...
Really? You think over $600?
Yes.
Really? And you babysat for her each and every week?
Yes.
And you accepted the money she gave you, and you didn't say to her, no, you owe me more than $30 a week. I'm not taking the $30. You came back and you babysat for her again, another week, and then another week, and then another week.
She kept promising me, oh, I have to go to the bank, oh, I haven't got my check yet, or I haven't cashed it. That's what she had kept telling me, so...
So I'm just going to sit on the phone and talk to my boyfriend. Forget any more money. Chalk it up to the time that you were sitting on the phone in the bedroom, chewing the fat with the boyfriend. You got me?
Yes.
Perfect. Is there anything else you want to tell me about your counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am. I was suing her for punitive damage because, actually, I don't want to do this.
Smart. Smart. It's her responsibility to take care of her phone. It's your daughter's responsibility to do the right thing if she's babysitting. I'm sure that you've had a chat with her about abusing the privilege of somebody else's phone. I have a feeling you have.
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right, Miss Gibb. Next time, you just be a little more careful, madam. That's all.
Well, you're excused. You may step out.
I was pretty upset.
I'm very sorry for Mrs. Gibbs, and I hope that she get her life together.
She said that she had permission. Her parents said, no, no, you didn't have permission.
They both played on the telephone.
Let's let teenagers babysit anymore.
Not to babysit for people like her again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Heath versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Street sweeper Ray Heath is suing his ex-girlfriend, 20-year-old student Nicole Carter, for unpaid rent and for damages to their apartment. Nicole is countersuing, also for apartment damages and for the cost to change the locks.
Mr. Heath, you and Miss Carter decided to set up housekeeping in your own apartment, and you leased an apartment together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you lease the apartment?
April of 2001.
And because neither of you probably had very good credit, your aunt had to co-sign the lease.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there came a time when you and the defendant had an argument, and she called the police and had you removed.
Yes, in August.
And you stayed out of the apartment because she got a protective order against you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
However, she wasn't paying the rent.
Right.
And in order for not only your credit, but primarily, I'm sure, your aunt's credit not to be destroyed, you continued to pay the rent on the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want the defendant to pay at least her half of the rent for the months that you weren't there, that she lived there, until you could get out of the lease. And how many months' rent did you pay from August until when, sir?
The agreement was made when we first moved in April. I paid the rent from April 2001 to January of 2002.
What was the entire rent?
$5,338.
That's an expensive apartment a month. I just want you to tell me, sir, how much a month was the rent?
Oh, $475. I'm sorry about that.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay rent in May, June, or July?
No,
any
ma'am.
rent? You did not?
No, ma'am.
So you didn't pay any rent at all in this apartment?
Nope.
Is that right?
He agreed to pay for the rent, and I clean, cook, and pay the electricity and stuff like that.
Did you have an agreement with her where she would pay half the rent?
No.
Yes,
Quiet.
yes, ma'am. Yes, we did. I have my aunt as a witness.
Are you the one who co-signed on this lease?
Yes.
Would you step up, please? Tell me your last name.
Wilkins.
Miss Wilkins, did these two young people come to you and ask you to sign the lease, co-sign the lease?
Yes, they did.
Both of them?
Both of them. I asked Nicole, was this true that she was going to pay half of the rent, and she told me yes.
Does that sound right?
No, ma'am.
Sure it does. Sure
No,
it does.
That's not how it went.
Listen, were you working?
Nope.
Why not?
At the time when we moved out, we didn't have anywhere to stay at, so I lost my job. That's when he said
May, June, July,
I never had a
August,
job.
September. Why don't you have a job? What do you
I was
do?
going to school. I was getting ready to go to school.
No. Going to school and getting ready to go to school are two entirely different things.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ray Heath says ex-girlfriend Nicole Carter owes for unpaid rent and apartment damages. Nicole says Ray abused her throughout their relationship.
Why weren't you working?
Because I had no transportation.
Aren't there any stores around this place where you were living?
Mm-hmm. I was looking.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Well, at the time, I was driving a sweeper. The
Now
streets.
let's get to the time you put him out of the apartment. Tell me about that.
Well, at the time, he'd been abusing me the whole time I've been with him.
Well, that's,
So-
you know, if you allow that to happen,
Yeah.
then you're just as stupid as he is guilty.
You're right. You're right. So we got into an argument over a car that my mother had gave me, and he took my keys.
What kind of an argument did you get into?
Well,
Your
I
mother had
came
given you a
from-
car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your mother had given you a car, so now you had transportation so that you could get a job.
Yeah. You're right.
Right.
So,
well, now what
he didn't
kind of
like the-
argument did you have?
He didn't like the fact that I was driving my car, going other places other than looking for a job.
Sounds right to me. He's
But no,
paying all the bills.
It wasn't only that. It was just the simple fact that he didn't like my relationship with my mom, my mother coming around, and people that came to the house. He just was very overprotective. He didn't even want me to leave the house. If I wasn't looking for a job, he didn't want me leaving the house. He just wanted me there to cook, clean, and be there for him.
Okay. So you had an argument.
Mm-hmm.
What happened during this argument?
He was trying to take my keys from me. So I went to the bathroom to go put on some clothes, and he just grabbed the door open, grabbed me, and swung me into the bed on the floor. Grabbed my keys and left.
He took your keys and he took you out of the bathroom forcefully and threw you on the bed or the floor.
He threw me to the bed, but I landed on the floor.
He missed.
Mm-hmm.
So you called the police.
Yep.
And you had him removed.
Mm-hmm.
And you got an order of protection.
Next day, when he came back again.
Good. Now you have your car that your mother gave you.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lovely smile.
Thank you.
So why couldn't you get a lovely job so that you could pay the rent? Who did you expect to pay the rent?
He put me through so much stuff where...
Who did you expect to pay the rent?
I was going to pay the rent. I had no problem with paying the rent. My mother would have helped me pay the rent, but I just couldn't get him out the house. He still was coming back to the house the whole time, even after I put him out. My house was broken into twice. He was coming, leaving notes, all types of things like that.
You lived there. Why didn't you pay your half of the rent?
Because he agreed to take care of me.
I don't believe you. That after you put him out of the house,
he had been taking care of
listen
me
to
the
me
whole
carefully. That after you put him out of the house, that he agreed to take care of you.
When I went to go pay the rent, they told me the rent was already paid, so what was I supposed to do? Just say, oh, well, take my money and give him his back?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right, Mr. Heath, listen to me very carefully. You were put out in August. 6 months you paid rent, and you did not have the use of your apartment. The rent is $475 a month. That is $2,850. Half of that is $1,425. Do you understand? You have to think more carefully about what you do, but she's certainly responsible for that. The other 3 months that she lived there with you and you didn't collect her half of the rent, chalk up to your own stupidity. I mean, she's got a great smile and everything else, but you have to separate here from the other parts of your anatomy. In any event, now let's get to your counterclaim. You had to change the locks 3 times because he kept coming back inside?
Twice, yeah.
That's
He
the
was
interest.
it wasn't even that he kept coming in. He had broke in twice. He still had access to the house, and I got the locks changed. He still was coming in there, leaving notes like turn the lights off and stuff like that. He was coming get his clothes. He was living there. If I wasn't there, he was there.
You mean he was sleeping there?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I would come there some nights and the bed would be messed up.
But he wasn't there.
But I was just scared. He wasn't there when I got there.
Okay. You changed the locks that made you feel safer?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because he was still calling, like, turn the lights off.
Explain something to you. Go home and live with your mother.
I did.
Good. You should have done it sooner. You should have done it sooner. The only reason you did it was because you didn't have the sucker anymore to pay your way.
Basically.
Basically. That's absolutely right. As soon as the sucker stopped paying your way, then you move back with your mother. You're a
That was
taker.
his agreement.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,425, and you get zippo, nada, nothing on your counterclaim.
Well, at least
That's
I
all.
had an apartment.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Instead of him trying to be a pimp, he is a wimp.
I'm glad I got my money.
Stop pimping people.
Stop messing
Fake
with
pimping.
low-life, hood rat, females, and just focus on me and get my life together.
He was trying to pimp her, and he's a wimp.
I don't know what they talking about. I mean, I guess that's in their nature, low-budget hoes.
Don't mess with fake players.
Don't mess with low-life females.
Pimping ain't easy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tate versus Enrico. Step forward, please.
Community advocate Valoria Tate is suing her neighbor, Secretary Laura Enrico, for slander and damage caused by her cats.
Miss Tate, it is your claim that the defendant's cats damaged some of your property. The two of you are neighbors and share a common garage and storage area. Is that right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And that sometime later, when you tried to remedy this situation yourself, the defendant posted flyers around or passed out flyers in the neighborhood accusing you of trying to poison animals and children.
After her neurotic behavior.
Okay. So how long have the two of you been neighbors and shared this common space?
I've lived there 5 years, and I'm not sure. I would say she's been there maybe 2 years.
Year and a half now.
Year and a half. You have two cats?
Yes.
Now tell me about this common space that you share.
I have pictures of the common area.
I'd like to see them, please.
That's supposedly where all of us can use the patio area. And I explained to my neighbor that I'm highly allergic to pets, and I can't go down there and entertain myself or my friends as long as cats are living on our tables.
Go ahead.
So I have several pictures.
Is this the common space that you share?
That's part of it. That's in the garage, and that's my personal space. That table was made for me. It's actually higher than a normal
Just
table.
show me the
Okay.
Just show me the private space that you have for storage.
Please.
Okay. So tell me how her cats destroyed your property.
Well, before they destroyed my literature that I placed in my garage and covered it very well with bags and mothballs, they've already destroyed a couple of plant pots, and used the bathroom in my plant pot.
Did you see that, or did you just
I
assume?
saw that, and when I saw it, I nicely went over to Laura and I told her, "Your cat's potted in my plant and my pot," and she would come over, clean it up and say a few nasty things, but she would clean it up. The second time I did that, she was a little more angrier, and she literally went down to the patio, to the common court area, and she turns around like this. "Some people don't want my cat to, but not poop." Laura has this thing about you can't tell her to clean up behind her own pets because she feels, as she kind of indicated, cats have a right to.
All right, she'll tell me what she feels.
Okay. So therefore, I went to the management. They said they have approached her several times. They pointed out in the CNRs, the rules, that we can only have house pets. In fact, I asked my owner before I moved. I said, "I'm highly allergic."
Can I see the house rules, please?
Yeah. I told him, I said, "I'm highly allergic to pets. Do they have pets?" He says, "No, only house pets."
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Valoria Tate says condo neighbor Laura Enrico owes for property damage caused by her cats. Valoria also claims Laura distributed a slanderous flyer calling her a pet killer.
Well, I've read the rules, and the rules clearly say that no pet is to be in a common area. Dog has to be kept on a leash at all times. Is this a picture of your cat on the table?
I can't see it.
Would you give that to her, please?
It's a black cat.
And is your cat a black cat?
He was, yes.
Now, after certain of your property was destroyed, and in your complaints say that you found that her cat urinated on a box, right? And there was literature in that box.
Yes.
What did you do?
What did I do?
Complaint, you put mothballs around the area.
Oh, the reason I put the mothballs is before I left for the trip, her cat was in my area up on top of my boxes. I have never seen the cats on the boxes before at that time. So I went into the house, I had some mothballs, left the boxes on the boxes so you can see what they were, and I left. I went on my trip.
Okay. You had a confrontation with the defendant and a friend of hers accusing you of trying to poison children and animals.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you said that there were some flyers that were distributed. I'd like to see those.
Your Honor, the flyers was placed on everyone's door in our entire complex. There's 26 units.
Did you place this around?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
You got some nerve. You got some nerve.
I have concern for the animals and the children in the complex.
I want to tell you something. You got some nerve. If you have animals that in any way interfere with your neighbor's peaceful enjoyment of their property, you keep your animals in the house. What right do you have to let your animals outside into common areas, on tables, on chairs? What right do you have to do that? None. And you are so arrogant, as to say the last line here is, if you have a problem with allergies, dislikes, phobias, or such about animals in the building, it might be suggested to move to another building. And you go through this whole grandfather clause because two people had cats that were outside. You say now it's grandfathered, so your cats can be outside. If you want to have house pets and you want to let them outside, go buy a house in the woods and let your animals out in the woods where they don't bother anybody. But you live in a condominium complex where there are lots of other people. And it is possible that some adults, some children are afraid of cats. Somebody might want to come and put their lunch on the table, and your cat has just been walking around after walking around in feces, now walks around on the table. That's outrageous. And your reaction is, what? Cats will be cats? I mean, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not, but my cats aren't the only ones in the courtyard. We have a lot of strays that come into the garage and come
That
into the
may
courtyard.
be. She can't complain about strays. Strays are not your problem. Your problem is your two cats. Because you are an owner or a tenant.
I'm an owner.
As an owner, you should want to do everything that you can to preserve the integrity of your space. What are you laughing about? Are you on medication?
No, I'm not your. No, I'm not, Your Honor. But the demonstrations of irrationality never occurred. She threatened me. She followed me.
Let me ask you this question: did you ever check with the management company to find out whether Miss Tate ever had any problems with prior tenants?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Did you ever have problems with prior tenants?
No.
I would say that you probably didn't. You keep your cats in your house because that's what the rules say. Specifically, rules that you gave and you signed for when you bought your condominium specifically said that only these two people, long gone, could have their cats out in the courtyard. You signed it. I assume when you signed it, you read it. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
So why didn't you abide by the rules you signed and read? Rules are your cats stay in your house. Yeah, right. And this is nasty.
Don't like having my animals threatened to be killed.
Well, why don't you keep your animals in your house?
I will from now on.
Perfect. Did we just solve that problem?
Yes, you did, Your Honor.
Fine. She doesn't mention your name in this, does she?
No.
Now, it's very possible that other people knew what she was talking about, but she doesn't mention your name.
May I share with you why she didn't have to?
Go ahead.
Because she made such a big scene about I was trying to kill these cats and children. All the neighbors heard it, and then she called the police. Well, they knew there was only one person she was referring to.
That I can't tell you what they knew.
But
she does not mention your name in this flyer. But certainly, Miss Enrico has agreed at this point, is that right, Miss Enrico, that you will keep your cats in your home from now on?
Yes.
Is that correct? Is
Yes,
that right?
Yes, ma'am.
That seems to solve the problem. I will prepare that order, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Laura has a little problem.
She's irrational.
This person that you're seeing talking out, I guess she took her Valiums.
I was afraid for the other animals and the children in the building.
All the other neighbors try to work things out.
I had no idea what I was being sued for.
She'll work it out eventually, hopefully.
I have better things to do. I do not like dissension in my life.
Maybe you've learned a lesson. No, grow up.
Leasing agent Veronica Ramirez and her husband, Juan Ramirez, are suing the father of Veronica's children, bartender Eloy Garza, for filing false charges with Child Protective Services. The couple claims Eloy accused them of child abuse.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 25 on the calendar in the matter of Ramirez versus Garza.
Thanks, Bert.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Ramirez, is it Ramirez?
Yes.
I'd like you to sit down, sir.
Thank you.
You and the defendant have 2 children together.
Yes.
Were you ever married?
No.
But you are now married to this gentleman.
Yes.
Your claim is that because of false charges that Mr. Garza filed against you, you were forced to incur substantial legal fees and debts. False charges with regard to child abuse. He filed those complaints with Child Protective Services. And you want him to reimburse you for all of the expenses that you incurred as a result of these false charges. Is that right?
Correct.
Mr. Garza says that he merely reported what he saw and what his children told him. Right now I'm going to need a time frame. When did you and Mr. Garza separate?
I believe it was in 99.
And how old are your 2 children?
6 and 4.
So they were really tiny. They were a year
Yes.
old and 3 years old.
About 3 years old.
When did you remarry?
December 16th of 2000.
And when was the first report of child abuse?
Back in 2000.
When in 2000?
In August of 2000.
All right, so let me go to Mr. Garza. Mr. Garza, when did you first make a complaint to Child Protective Services?
It was back in August 2000.
And what was the nature of that complaint?
Well, pretty much child abuse. My kids were talking about how their stepdad would, slap them or hit them or, in that nature. I have papers here from the Child Protective Services.
From August?
From May of 2001.
Well, let me take a look at it, please.
I also have police reports here and medical reports.
I see various letters. In some of the letters it says that they determined back in May of 2001 that the family, that is your family, does require our service at this time. I don't know whether they spoke to the children or not. So what you're telling me is in August, one of your children, probably the older one, was telling me that they were hit, but hit by the stepfather. And you reported that.
Yes.
What was the next report?
Well, after that, my youngest son, Isaiah, he came over and he went to the bathroom, and when he was urinating, he has a habit of he'll drop his pants down to his knees, and I noticed some bruises on his buttocks. And he had said that some ants had bit him. He was afraid to say it, so he had said that some ants had bit him. Finally, he came out and said that, that stepdad had, hit him with the black sand, there was some bruises on there.
And did you make a report at that time?
Yes,
I
have
a report.
Medical reports from that, from the physician that saw him.
Can I see the report, please?
Yes.
Now you can stand up, Mr. Ramirez. Well, this second report was called in by the hospital, according to the doctor's notes, because the doctor found bruising noted to both buttocks on the child. Okay. Mr. Ramirez, did you back sometime in 2001 hit one of the children, the older child, on the behind?
Isaiah, the smallest children, he was going through a lot of problems at daycare concerning when he would come back from his father's house. We tried disciplining him with timeouts, taking toys away from him, name it. It got to the point where we couldn't take it anymore. They didn't want him at the daycare. Took him home. I spoke to him. I spanked him. Next thing you know, I'm getting arrested because his father put charges on me. I got a paper here stating that...
No, I'm not finished yet. You spoke to him, and how old was he at the time?
He was 3.
3. So he was 3 years old.
The daycare was getting ready to kick him out because they didn't want him there anymore.
He was 3. I'm speaking. He was 3 years old. So you spanked him.
Yeah.
With what?
With a belt, ma'am.
With a belt?
Yes, ma'am.
On his buttocks?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have to attend any classes, Mr. Ramirez, as a result of this investigation?
No, we had a homemaker come and give us parenting classes.
Well, that's parenting classes.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to have services as a result?
Yes, ma'am, but from an hour and a half classes, it dropped down to 20 hours because the homemaker found it wasn't necessary, that we didn't need those classes.
Well, you do need the classes. If you think that it's appropriate to beat a 3-year-old with a belt, causing bruises sufficient to be noted by a hospital, then you need a lot of parenting classes, more than an hour and a half. 3-year-old child who was going through a state of mother, father, new father, visiting one, there's a certain amount of acting out behavior. What you don't do is you don't use an instrument ever on a child. Ever. You used a belt on a 3-year-old. That is unacceptable. Period. End of discussion. It's unacceptable.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me very carefully. Your husband just admitted he beat your 3-year-old with a belt. He abused him.
Spanked, not abused.
Beat. Abused. You should have taken the belt and wrapped it around his neck.
And later today,
Miss Jones, you were trying to get over on the system, madam.
No,
That's
I
what
wasn't
happened.
trying to get over on
Sure
the
you were.
system, Judge Judy, because when I called there, they told me, don't bring the ticket yourself or we're going to take the money.
I wish you had the name of that person who told you that. I think that you probably ought to sue them.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica Ramirez says the father of her children, Eloy Garza, falsely accused her of child abuse. Eloy says Veronica's husband, Juan, hit his son.
Miss Ramirez, I don't have to go through this whole case anymore. I have just solved this whole case. You are suing for filing false charges against you. False charges of
Actually, the
abuse?
false charges and the custody hearing that we actually went through for the past 2 years.
Well, why do you think you would be entitled to legal fees from him for a custody hearing?
He sued me for custody of the children because of that incident.
Yes.
We went through about 2 years of a custody battle. It got to the point to where he decided he didn't want custody of the children anymore.
So?
He wanted me to agree not to move out of the city we were living in, and he wouldn't fight for custody. He wanted a social study done. We had the social study done. The lady came to the house. She did interviews on both of us. She did interviews on the children. In the social study that I have with me, she states that he seems lovable with the children. The children are lovable with him. She didn't see any problems with the family together. She felt that the children should stay living with me.
So?
We went to court. He had moved to Corpus because he was living in Corpus already working. He was away from us about 3 months. He put temporary orders on us not to leave the county. The judge spoke to the children to see whether they felt safe enough to move out of town with me to Corpus with him, or if they wanted to stay in Harlingen with their biological father. The children stated to the judge that they wanted to leave to Corpus with us.
Let me explain something to you. I don't know who this judge was who interviews a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old to make a determination as to where they want to live. I never did that with a 4-year-old. Where would you like to live? With your mommy or with your daddy?
We also have him right
Anna.
here. He states that he has evidence that there was abuse.
There was abuse.
When?
Period. There was abuse. I'm finding right here that there was abuse. And you have no case to sue him for filing false allegations of abuse. Your husband abused your 3-year-old. You should have taken the belt and wrapped it around his neck. That's what you should have done. And I don't know what other issues the defendant has with you. However, any father who would not at that point fight for custody would be neglectful. So he had an absolute obligation to file for custody of his 2 children. And then the thing dragged along for 2 years because this judge had to wait until the kids were 4 and 6 in order to interview them.
No, it didn't drag on that long. It dragged on that long because he kept putting it off.
Maybe. But I don't care what the social worker said. I want to tell you something. I don't care what the social worker said. It is irrelevant to me. The mother's husband beat the children, but the children seem happy and safe with the mother. Father never beat the children, so we think that the
Father
children
was
should
never
stay.
around.
We think the children should stay with the mother. I mean, I don't understand a report like that. In any event, I'm not having to decide that case now. All I have to decide is whether or not he should be responsible for the cost of all of your legal fees as a result of fighting both his custody case and the case that he filed and the orders that he requested, preventing you from moving out of the jurisdiction, relocating.
I also have a letter here from the police department where they took the children to the police department, and the police even put in here where they were trying to bribe the children to tell the police that they were being slapped.
Listen to me very carefully. Your husband just admitted he beat your 3-year-old with a belt. What do I care about the police report? Your husband looked at me. I asked him a question. He answered my question. He beat your 3-year-old with a belt. He abused him.
I spanked him, not abused him.
Beat. Abused. 3-year-old, belt, abuse. That's it. Marks from a belt on a 3-year-old is abuse. That's not neglectful. That's not neglectful. Neglectful is if you don't give him a hot lunch. Neglectful is not when you beat a 3-year-old with an instrument. So you are not entitled to the return of any of your legal fees,
in
madam.
the Penal Code, Section 961 states that the state declines prosecution in this case. The defendant is allowed to use forceful to reasonably discipline a child under Section 9.61 of the Penal Code, and there is insufficient evidence to show any other intent by the defendant. That's
I
how my
hope
kids
you
got
feel
dismissed.
better. If you appeared before me and you said to me, I lost my temper once and I hit him
with a belt.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Wait, that's not what you're saying.
No, you asked me.
No. I lost my temper once, and I hit him with a belt, and it will never happen again because that's not me. I know that's not the way you're supposed to discipline children. But what you just read to me, sir, was an indication that you believe that this is an appropriate way of disciplining children.
No, it's not, ma'am.
It better not be.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Let me tell you something. You're not going to get the money from him.
Why? He signed me a promissory note stating...
I don't care if he signed you the Declaration of Independence. Courts do not help you when you try to scam the system.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Veronica Ramirez says the father of her children, Eloy Garza, falsely accused her of child abuse. Eloy says Veronica's husband, Juan, hit his son.
Miss Ramirez, you have no case. The defendant did exactly what he should have done as a father by reporting what he saw. He did exactly what he should have done as a father by fighting for custody. He did exactly what he should have done by trying to prevent you from leaving the jurisdiction and relocating. And if he lost on all those counts, that's very unfortunate. But he had not only the right, but the obligation to do it. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't think it went right.
Worked out good, I guess.
His false police reports, taking the children to the police department, filing false reports. I have all of that documented, all the false reports that he made.
Nothing else better to do, I guess.
I even have the reports where the police say that they were trying to bribe the children by telling them they would give them things if they said this.
As soon as I saw, bruises going on, I knew I had to get in and do something.
My children see him as their father.
They're little, 3 and 5,
So that shows what type of biological father their father really is.
He's never around.
No, I've been involved with their lives all the time.
I might have used excessive force, which I regret doing it.
Let the real parents do the discipline, not the step parents.
Be careful who you get involved with.
Go back to my country club and eat a po' boy sandwich.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Peterson versus Thornhill. Step forward, please.
20-year-old college student Serene Peterson is suing her former friend, administrative assistant Jasmine Thornhill, for unauthorized use of her credit card. Jasmine says she had Serene's permission.
Miss Peterson, the defendant was a good friend of yours. You claim, however, that she stole your credit card and used it without your permission, racking up tremendous bills for which you are responsible. The defendant says she did, in fact, use your credit card. She used it with your permission. You had an arrangement where she would pay the bill, and she was perfectly prepared to honor that arrangement. You knew her for a long time?
Around 6 months.
When do you claim she stole your credit card?
December 15th, I was over her apartment on a social engagement. When I left, I accidentally left my wallet with my credit card inside her apartment.
Go ahead.
2 days later, after searching my belongings, I called her and asked her if she had it. She says that she did, and I went over and I retrieved it the same day.
Your credit card?
Yes.
Go ahead.
After that, everything was fine until I received my statement. That was in mid-January. The statement had some charges, along with the charge that I purchased for Ms. Thornhill while I was at her apartment.
What do you mean the charge that you purchased for her?
When I was over her apartment on the 15th, she asked me if she could use my credit card to purchase something online. I agreed to make the purchase for her.
What did you purchase for her online?
An online thing from Pier 1 for $62.67.
Can I see that bill, please?
Yes.
Now you have certain things highlighted.
Yes, those are all of the charges that Ms. Thornhill made, except for the one on December 5th.
You have one here for December 19th.
Yes, that's correct.
But you got your credit card back on December 17th.
Yes.
You have something on the 18th.
There are a series of charges made after December 15th, extending onto May. I have a complete list. All of the charges I did not make, Ms. Thornhill made.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Serene Peterson says former friend Jasmine Thornhill stole her credit card and ran up charges. Jasmine says Serene gave her permission to use it.
Let me hear your version of how you got this credit card.
Sure, Your Honor. Prior to December 15th, I had asked Ms. Peterson if I could use her credit card in order to make some online purchases for Christmas and some other purchases as well. She said it was no problem. She would come to my workplace in the next couple of days and she would give me the card so I could go ahead and do that. She came to my workplace as agreed and she left the card in my possession. After that, I proceeded to make a few of the online purchases, and I asked her, was it okay if in the coming couple of weeks, if I could use it again? And Ms. Peterman's statement to me was, well, hey, I don't have a job right now. You're working full-time. If you want to use it, just make sure you pay the bill. I'll send the statements to you, and we won't have a problem. So I began to use the card under the verbal agreement that we had made. Ms. Peterson got her statement in mid-January. I asked her what the amount was she going to send that to me? She said no, because of the fact that she had made a charge in December herself. She'd go ahead and take care of that payment. She said, but then when the rest of my charges became evident in the February bill, that I would begin to be responsible for it. In February, as agreed, she mailed me the payment, and I have proof of that because I sent in a money order to make that payment. Your Honor, may I say something, please?
Go ahead.
After Ms. Peterson reviewed that statement, and I sent a copy of it to her, of the statement itself, along with a copy of the money order to her in the mail as proof that I had indeed made that payment. Then came February, and she received a statement, and she was very concerned by the growing balance. I told her, I said, I can understand that, but it just so happens that you and I have a different standard of the way that we live. I understand some of the things I might buy might appear expensive to you, but I'm expecting tax money. I'll definitely use some of that towards lowering the balance, and I will definitely honor our initial agreement. I don't in any way want to...
stick you.
Right, exactly. March came along. That's when Ms. Peterson, I think, she started to get really upset.
Well, just show me the rest of the payments that you made.
That's the only payment that I made successfully.
Why?
That was the only statement that she sent to me.
In February?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you make purchases in March?
Those actually, ma'am, were purchases that I had made in February that were on back order.
Then you cancel them. What are you, nuts?
No, honestly, ma'am, you're right. That's something she certainly could have done.
All right, Miss Peterson, let me tell you what I think. I think you lied to me when you said she stole your card and you had no knowledge of the fact that she was using your card till you got these statements. Let me tell you why. Because if I got a statement in the month of January that showed unauthorized usage of my card, and since you weren't using the card at all, correct?
Correct.
Then you cut up the card, you call the company immediately, and you say, discontinue this card, I'm canceling this card, no further purchases are authorized. You didn't do that.
I did, Your Honor.
No. If you did that immediately, in January, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Then you are not responsible for these. If you canceled your card, and they continue to allow someone else to use it in an unauthorized way, you are not responsible.
When I called them in December, they told me that they had been trying to contact me because they had red flagged my card because of suspicious behavior. They had also told me that someone called up and got my card reactivated. Numerous times I called them and I canceled my card.
Do you know her mother's maiden name?
No, ma'am.
Do you know her social security number?
I don't know by heart, but I did know it.
Good. Did you ever call to reinstate her card?
No, ma'am.
No. Miss Peterson, what happened is that you let her use your card.
I did not.
Then if these are unauthorized charges on your account, and you did not give her permission, and you canceled your card, then you are not responsible for these.
That's what I told Bank of... However, they told me, because I told them that I knew who was making the charges, I said, I can direct you to the person who is fraudulently using my card. They said that it's a civil matter now and that I have to bring up the charges against her because they are not going to take them off.
No, that's not true. Call the police. Madam, if what you're telling me is that somebody stole your credit card and used your credit card without your permission, call the police and have her arrested. Simple as that. They're going to arrest her and you won't be out any money. You won't be out any money if what you're telling me is true. What you're telling me is true, correct?
Yes.
Right? You didn't give her permission to use your card.
No.
You're sure of that?
I'm positive.
Then you don't have anything to worry about. Call, have her arrested for grand larceny. You are not responsible for the payments because you did, in fact, cancel your card.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I did.
Perfect. Then we have nothing to worry about. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope Ms. Thornhill enjoys her few months of freedom because she will be going to jail. Ms. Peterson and I had a verbal agreement that I would make the monthly payments on her account until my charges were paid for. She thinks that she can just walk all over somebody just because she has a pretty face or whatever. What's frustrating to me is the fact that, for one, that she's trying to make me out to be a liar or to be a thief.
I know that Ms. Thornhill stole the credit card because she admitted so.
That's completely untrue.
She just got away with stealing and lying.
She needs a lot of help, obviously.
Daughter's father, Keith Buchanan, for an unpaid loan she gave him for a car.
Miss Young, the defendant is married to your daughter?
No.
He is the father of your grandchild?
Yes.
Do he and your daughter live together?
No.
Where does your daughter live?
In Maple Shade.
Were they ever married?
No.
They have one child?
Yes.
Who's 12?
Yes.
Did you live together with Miss Young's daughter?
Well, at one point, she lived with me in Maple Shade.
How long ago?
This was 2010, 2011.
You mean when your daughter was a baby?
Yes.
How long have you had custody of your granddaughter?
11 years. My daughter never stayed with him.
I don't know her. For child support, for taking care of his daughter, and he wrote that off of the loan. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Essie Young claims her granddaughter's father, Keith Buchanan, refuses to pay back a loan she gave him for a car.
This is a very simple case, because I don't have to get into the history of war.
Yes.
When was that?
Before he got it, he was calling every day.
Did you maintain a relationship with him?
Yes and no.
Would he visit his daughter?
No.
Ever?
Once in a blue moon.
Okay.
I usually have to take my granddaughter to see him.
Okay. It was sort of odd to me if he was never married to your daughter, so they didn't have a formalized relationship. They don't live together now. Why would you loan him? I know that you did. Mm-hmm. Why would you loan him money?
My granddaughter.
Except you're a very nice person.
My granddaughter asked me to. She said, Grandma, would you please help my dad? I told her I really don't want to.
Okay, so you discussed with your daughter during one of these visits that you needed money to buy a car?
No, never did.
You never did?
No.
Who is this person?
That's my wife.
Does she work?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes.
Well, why would you ask your daughter's grandmother, who takes care of her, who's always taken care of her? You don't, neither does her mother. Why would you not ask your wife's family? You both work, take out a loan. Why would you go to her and ask her for money?
But it was just...
What would prompt you to call her? Doesn't she have parents?
Yes, she do. I did that, and at the time, they couldn't help.
So you went to her parents first?
I went to her family first. They said, sorry, they can't help at the time, so Mrs. Young was my last resource, which I didn't want to use, but at the time, I had to use it because I had no other choice. I had to hurry up and get a vehicle.
Well, why didn't you take out a loan?
Actually, I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
Because my credit's not all that great. I tried to take out loans. I tried to go...
Does your wife have a car?
Yes, she has a car.
Okay, why don't you use her car?
She worked. I work an hour and a half away from home, and she worked too, and we worked around the same time.
How much money did you borrow from her?
$2,000.
How much did you give back?
$912.
$912.
2022, she got $912.
From what?
From my taxes. And we agreed on once I filed my taxes, I would give her $2,000 for my taxes. She got $912 from them, that same taxes, because I owed backup child support. So she got on top of my regular payment for child support plus $912.
What? Is there something wrong with your mind?
No.
Did you just say to me, am I crazy? Did he say he owed back child support? Yes. Out off of the loan. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Oh, my God. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Well, not ever. I should take that back. It's the dumbest thing I've heard today. If you owed her back child support, how much did you owe her?
I only owed her $900.
In back child support?
Yes.
Okay.
That I fully forgot.
Just a second. You owed her that money. In addition to owing her that money, you owed her $2,000. Do you understand that? So you owed her $900 plus $2,000. Are you not following me? Am I getting something wrong here?
I'm with you.
What you said was they took money out of your taxes for back child support, $900. So that means you paid her $900 of the $2,000. That's what your argument is.
Yes.
Am I getting that?
Yes.
You already owed her the $900.
I had no awareness that I owed her $900. When I found out that $900 got taken out the taxes.
You got $900 that I owed you anyway. Now I need more time. Oh, my God. How is your granddaughter in school? She do okay?
Yes, she
does
well.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Either his math skills or his moral skills are somehow lacking.
It's the moral.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think the judge seen right through him.
He was gonna be miserable, so I just let him be miserable.
No one thinks like that.
As long as she go about her life, I go about my life, leave my family alone.
I just think he was hustling me.
Only contact me when he got something to do with my daughter, that's it.
I don't want any.
But I thought that what the defendant was saying was that he was expecting $2,000 on his tax returns. So he told plaintiff, when I get it, I'll repay you the $2,000. And then in his mind, when the $900 left the account, he didn't know that that was not going to be there for the back child support. So he only had, the $900 and change left to give her. I was like, okay, that makes sense. He thought that it would be the full $2,000. Come to find out, he thinks that the back child support is what fulfills his obligation.
Matthew Klinghoffer is suing fellow motorist Robin Major for scooter damages after Robin hit Matthew's scooter.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2197, Klinghoffer versus Major.
Thank you. You were riding a motor scooter.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe it for me, please?
It is a 2018 Yamaha Zuma.
Is that a small?
No, I got a picture of it here.
Can I see that, please? Yeah, well, it's small.
Yeah, it's a small vehicle.
You were on this vehicle with a child?
Yes, ma'am.
That was your son, who's how old?
12.
What's his name?
Justin Barr.
He's not here today.
No.
Why not?
He has autism.
And you were riding with him going where on October 20th of last year?
I just picked him up from school and I was on my way home.
How far is it?
The school is less than a half a mile from my home.
Do you pick him up every day?
Most of the time, yeah, but since this accident, I have not picked him up since. Mom does.
So there's a car available to pick him up. It's your claim that the defendant, while acting negligently, hit your scooter and damaged it.
Yes, ma'am.
You want him to be responsible. That happened on the 22nd of October. I assume sometime after 3 o'clock?
Yes. It was at 3:18.
In what state do you live?
Evansville, Indiana.
Is there any sort of helmet rule in Indiana?
No, ma'am.
Yes, there is.
My son, for a child, yes.
Just a second. So the answer is either yes or no. You said no.
So for me, no. For my son, yes.
Was your son wearing a helmet?
Yes, ma'am.
No, he wasn't.
Shh. No, listen to me. Shh. Don't speak.
He had a small purple bicycle helmet on.
Now, you wear a helmet because?
To keep him from getting his head hurt.
Hurt?
Yeah.
Right. Well, just for my own interest, why wouldn't you wear a helmet to prevent you from getting hurt?
Dumb is what dumb does.
Well, that would be an answer, because that sounds sort of reckless to me.
Yes, ma'am. I wear a helmet now.
And I'm not so sure your son was wearing a helmet on the 22nd of October either, sir. So I want you to be very, very careful when I ask you this question again. Are you positive?
Always is wearing a helmet.
Okay. On your way home, I understand you have some sort of a chart to try to explain to me what the accident was. This is your version of the accident. So you want to step over there, Mr. Klinghoffer?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be you and your son riding, both of you, probably without helmets. And it looks, that's your version, and it looks as if...
sitting in traffic.
Just a second.
Sorry.
And it looks as if there's a lot of traffic.
Yes, ma'am.
So a lot of traffic, no helmets, you're on your way home, and... Go ahead.
I was just sitting in traffic here, waiting for the train to clear, and he comes out of his driveway and backs right into me.
Okay.
No horn, no regard of me being there.
Wait 1 second. On the other side, this is your chart.
Yes, ma'am.
On the other side of where the defendant's driveway is, which I assume is the blue car, that's his driveway, is that a street?
Yes, ma'am.
You know where I'm talking about?
Yes,
Point to where I'm talking about.
This is a street.
Yes,
called...
that's a street.
Yes.
And that's a street that has cars.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So one would say you should not be in that intersection.
Well,
Just a second. One would say, even in your chart, you should not be in that intersection. You should be either have enough room in front or wait until the traffic moves, because you're stuck in the middle. So a car can't move out of
I was actually sitting about right here.
Well, this is your chart.
Yes, ma'am.
So you indicate that that chart is not absolutely correct.
No, it's
and
not.
that your scooter was right behind the three cars.
Behind these 3 cars here.
But still in the intersection.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a second.
We was coming to a rolling stop as the arms were coming down, so I didn't know where I was going to stop at, so I was rolling with traffic. And the vehicle that was in front of me was also pulling a trailer, and I couldn't see around it. It was a big box trailer.
So you couldn't see what was in front of you?
No, I could not. And I got as far away from his driveway as I possibly could.
No, you weren't even thinking about his driveway, sir. Let's be square. You know, it's not a good idea to make things up as you go.
Far enough out of the way of the intersection. I didn't think he was going to come out of his driveway and back into me, ma'am.
Well, so you were watching the other side, not the driveway?
Yeah.
Is that what
looking
you
at
say?
the intersection.
Yeah.
Just making sure I got out of the intersection, got past the yellow line.
Okay. So he clipped the
rear right by my taillight.
Yeah, back here.
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened? You can go back now.
And it literally just shoved me over.
Okay, go back. So it shoved you over. Now, when it shoved you over, did you land on one foot or did you land on the pavement?
Oh, we landed on the pavement. I tossed my son up because he was sitting in front of me. Up onto his feet.
Oh, hold on. Hold the phone.
Mode.
Hold the phone. Your son was sitting in front of you.
Yes.
Is that what he said?
He was sitting in front of me.
So your son was driving?
No, he was not driving. I was driving.
I'm trying to get this picture in my head.
I'm being a
with
protective
this little,
parent.
just a second, with this little scooter. Your son was in front of you. This is one seat. So he was sitting in front of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your 12-year-old?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And how tall is your 12-year-old?
Probably about 5 foot, if that.
My size.
Yes.
So, like a fully grown adult. He may be not yet fully grown for a kid, but I'm a fully grown adult, and I'm 5 feet tall, and I've been that my whole life. So I'm an adult.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So your adult child is sitting in front of you. You're sitting behind him.
Yes.
Now, I want you to explain to me, hold out your arms. I want you to explain to me how your son is in front of you, you're behind him in the back part of this seat, and you're driving. I want you to explain that to me. The 12-year-old driving the motor scooter.
He was not driving.
But I don't believe you.
I don't believe you either.
I don't care whether you believe me. You're not judging me. I'm judging you. So that means that if I don't believe you, that's important. If you don't believe me, that is irrelevant.
Hello? I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl in the good.
Why do we shoot baskets with paper ball? Your day.
Matthew Klinghoffer claims fellow motorist Robin Major hit Matthew's scooter while Robin was pulling out of his driveway.
Go ahead.
I'm reaching around my son and driving. I've been doing it since I was 16. I've been driving scooters since I was 16.
Hey, you may have been driving scooters when you're 16, but I've been using my common sense for 80 years. And I don't see why your son wasn't sitting behind you so you didn't have to lean over on that big, long seat in order to be maneuvering this scooter. I'm not visualizing that, Mr. Klinghoffer, so I want you to take a deep breath. Kevin, let me see Mr. Major's diagram. So I want you, your son is sitting in front on the seat. You're sitting in the raised portion behind him. I want you to put that down there.
Which sitting back here in the raised portion makes me sit up much higher than him.
Sarah, Does your research indicate how long this thing is? Does it give any dimensions?
I'm sure I could find it.
Okay, so he clipped the back and you fell off?
We fell over. I stood my son back up. I got up.
So you fell over and son got up?
I got my son up. I got up. He was still pushing my vehicle. I got up to smack on the back of his window. And then he gets out and aggressively screaming at me, "Why are you smacking on my window? Why are you trying to break my window?"
Okay.
I asked him, "Why are you still 2003?"
Big one. He's in a very high SUV, right? And you're in a very low scooter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, neither you or your son went to the hospital, is that right?
No, ma'am.
Neither you or your son had medical treatment at the scene.
My son was looked over, but that was
Just a second. Neither you had medical treatment at the scene.
No.
Neither you or your son went to a doctor.
No.
Now, do you have a photograph of what your scooter looked like after this accident? Because this is his photograph.
That's after the accident. Here's another one.
Okay, I'd like to see what your photograph looks like.
There's all of them.
Mr. Klinghoffer of the motorcycle, because Mr. Major is handing me up his photographs of what this looks like.
Here's the whole stack.
Okay, so what we're talking about is this piece right here.
That's my exhaust. And
Just a second, that's what's damaged. This
and
piece,
the upper panel there.
I don't see anything damaged in the upper panel.
On picture, it shows it.
I'd like to see
I bet
it.
it does. Now, on that muffler, that's rust.
That's not rust.
I might not know nothing about scooters, but I know what rust is like.
Mr. Major.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what's wrong with you. I made myself clear pleasantly to you, respectfully to you, but you certainly understood that here we don't talk to each other.
Yes, ma'am.
That you will have a turn right now. It's his turn.
Yes, ma'am.
And Your Honor, that wheelbase is 50 inches, so about 4 feet wheel to wheel.
Okay, so let me see. So from here to here, wheel to wheel is 4 feet. So sitting on the back here, in order to get to the handlebars.
Maybe like 3 feet.
3 feet. Hold out your arms. Nah. Okay. Now, just to complete your story, sir, Mr. Klinghoffer, this happened in October, and you said you wear a motorcycle helmet now, or a helmet now, since the accident.
Yes, ma'am.
Since this accident.
It scared me straight.
And did you or did you not have the scooter repaired?
No, I have not had it repaired.
Just a second. So the answer is no. Pay attention, Mr. Klinghoffer, from which I deduce, you're looking at your papers, from which I deduce that the motor scooter is operable. You've been using it since October, despite the
other scooters that I've been driving.
I don't
have
believe.
not been driving
Just
that
a
one.
second. I don't believe you, sir.
Okay.
I want you to be really careful about what you say to me. You do wear a helmet now. Now you know where I'm going, Mr. Klinghoffer. Since the accident, so does your son. There is nothing that appears to be mechanically wrong with this motor scooter in either your photographs or his. Nothing mechanical.
Estimate.
I don't care what your estimate says, sir. On my naked eye. First of all, you understand that I'm doubting.
I understand,
I'm doubting big parts of your story, Mr. Klinghoffer.
I understand, ma'am.
I doubt big parts of your story about whether or not you were wearing a helmet. I don't think your son was wearing a helmet. I think that this diagram indicates to me that you were in a place where you shouldn't have been. That's your diagram. He has his own diagram that'd probably be very different. So I am going to assume, because that's my common sense, that you and or your son have been riding this motor scooter since October and that it hasn't sat idly. I don't care what you got, because the pictures belie the fact that this motor scooter was damaged beyond being rideable. And that's if it was his fault. Okay, now we've got his picture, now we're coming to you. Is that a fair and accurate representation
Yes.
of the accident site?
No, it's not.
Yes.
Now.
How would you know? You wasn't even there. You didn't show up 20 minutes after the fact.
Excuse me.
You did not show up. She wasn't even there.
I'm going to throw you out, and you're going to lose this. I'm going to throw you out, and you're going to lose.
You called him an idiot in front of my son.
Okay, she's gone. Gone, gone, gone.
Yeah. I know why you can't afford insurance.
Gone.
We wouldn't be here today if he had insurance.
Did you understand why I threw your wife out?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what you people think this is all about. The fact that he had no is what you say to me, he had no insurance, which is why you're here?
Yeah, we wouldn't be here right now if he had insurance, and insurance would have took care of all that.
Well, it's possible, Mr. Klinghoffer, that you wouldn't be here right now, and I haven't made a decision yet if you were driving the motor scooter.
He was not driving.
But I don't believe you.
I don't believe you either.
I don't care whether you believe me. You're not judging me. I'm judging you. So that means that if I don't believe you, that's important. If you don't believe me, that is irrelevant. Were you driving your car uninsured?
I was moving my...
Oh, no. Be very careful what you say to me. You turned the ignition on, started to move. That's driving.
And let yourself be here.
Guess who's back in the house? Paramount Plus has got your great reality escape. Escape into new seasons of the biggest competitions with the boldest personalities and the wildest drama. Oh my God! Paramount Plus. Stream now.
Matthew Klinghoffer is accusing fellow motorist Robin Major of hitting him and his son while Robin backed out of his driveway.
Okay. Your statement, Mr. Major, based upon this diagram, is that the defendant pulled out and was to sort of beat the traffic and was driving not in a lane, which suggests to me, sir, that you saw him.
I didn't see him.
Well, how do you know that he pulled out?
When I was backing out, the car that's adjacent there waved me out.
You mean the car
behind the way? Or he's saying he's waving me out.
He's waving you on to suggest that it's clear.
So I'm coming out, and I didn't see him, Your Honor.
You didn't see him?
No.
Okay. Now go back. Now, Mr. Major, we're going to get to insurance. Were you driving your car uninsured?
I wasn't. I was moving my...
Oh, no. Be very careful what you say to me. You put a key in the ignition. You turned the ignition on. You put the car in reverse.
Yes, ma'am.
Started to move. That's driving.
Yes, ma'am.
And driving far enough into the street so you weren't on your property.
No, my car was still in...
Oh, no, Mr. Major. Mr. Major, you said that that's a fair and accurate representation of the accident scene.
That's my driveway.
The back of your car is not in the driveway. The back of your car is in a public street. That's
right,
what you
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, he was... Listen to me, Mr. Major. I'm an equal opportunity abuser. You have to understand that. So please, I'm sort of ancient, but please don't treat me as if I'm stupid.
No,
people confuse age with stupidity.
No,
that would be a huge mistake on your part.
Yes.
Huge. Unless you're suggesting he came up on your driveway, which this doesn't suggest at all. You were in a public street without insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that would be an easy. Did the police respond to this accident?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a police report?
There,
ma'am.
Yes,
May I have it,
thing
please?
They gave me.
Right here.
Okay. Scuff and scratch marks were observed on the left side of vehicle 2. That's what the police officer observed. Now, what did you do after this accident, Mr. Klinghoffer?
I called the police.
Got the police. The police came, they took a report, they spoke to you. Now, you were picking your son up from school.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you go?
I went home.
You went home with your son. Now, when you went home with your son, you were riding in front, is that correct?
We walked home. My vehicle was not rideable. My exhaust pipe was...
Just a second. How did you get the motor scooter?
I pushed it.
Did you see him push the motor? Hoffer's wife
This way.
Step over next to your husband, please. Were you at home when your husband came home with your son after this accident?
He actually called me.
Just a second. I said, were you at home?
Yes, I was at home.
Who else was home with you?
My brother and my friend.
You say your husband called you and he told you about the accident?
Yes.
And what did you do?
Me and got in the car and we pulled up and I parked in the middle of the street.
Go over to that chart and show me where you pulled up.
About right here.
Okay, so you pulled up right near where the accident was?
Yes.
And where was your husband?
He was right here with Justin.
Okay, go back. And then what happened? Police come, police leave. I want you to tell me what happened next.
After the police and fire department ambulance leave, me and Justin walked to where they told me to park my car. So me and Justin got in the car.
And your husband?
He was walking the scooter back to our house with.
And is that how he arrived at the house, walking with the motor scooter?
Yes.
Very good. Kevin, she can go out now.
Okay. This way, please.
Now, as soon as Kevin gets back, I'm going to take a look at your estimate.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, so protector muffler, reasonable. Front fender, unreasonable. Just a second. You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Radiator cover, footrest boards. No. Rear reflector is reasonable. Exhaust pipe. Okay. Now, Mr. Major.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell you that ordinarily I would award him half the damage because I think that he was 50% responsible for this accident. I think he was driving negligently with his son. I think his son was actually, his 12-year-old son was driving the scooter. Wheelbase is not something that I can conjure. And if it was true, it was still reckless. So I would actually ascribe half of his damage to him. I'm not, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if there was a lot of traffic, you are at least partially responsible for not being more cautious. You're driving in a big car. There was somebody behind you because you did, in fact, hit them. And you have to be very cautious when you're driving a big car. The reason I'm ascribing all the damage to you, sir, is because you had no insurance. And nobody belongs on the road without insurance. And there has to be a penalty when you're driving without insurance, just like when you were driving without a license. Do you require a license? Just a second. Hey! Where you live, which Sarah can check, do you need a driver's license to ride a scooter on the street?
No, you need an endorsement for a Class B scooter.
A what?
An endorsement for a Class B scooter.
Okay. Do you have that?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your son?
No.
Your son was driving. Your case is dismissed. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
My son was not driving.
Court is adjourned.
I had insurance, but I had it on my other vehicle, not on my truck. I didn't feel nothing until he was pounding on the back of my window. I did not see the scooter until after the fact. Wear your helmet when you're on a scooter and have insurance when you're back on your driveway.
You know what was interesting about that, Sarah, to me? The one thing he said, which came out sort of by accident, was that his son was in front of him. And there's no question that...
I can imagine a world in which you're very uncomfortably trying to ride around your son, but he's not a 7 or 8 year old. You know, he's a teenage boy who's 5 feet tall, and that would be like one of us sitting in front of him. So I agree that it doesn't make the most sense. I could fathom it. However, common sense kind of kills it.
Common sense kind of kills it, and so does, we were all wearing helmets.
Yeah.
And so does, I pick him up in the motor scooter, and this guy for sure lets his 12-year-old son drive it. And there's a lot of traffic based upon what both things. And the defendant had no insurance. They deserved each other.
Yeah.
Want justice? Go to tools she wrongfully sold.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2189, Strubs versus Wassinger.
Thank you. Mr. Scruggs, you have brothers and sisters?
No, ma'am.
Were your father and your mother? Who predeceased whom?
My mother died when I was 17 years old, and my father died in 2019. after a long-time illness, and he had his tools at my property.
You and the defendant were married for 10 years.
Correct.
You separated in what year?
2016.
And when you left, she stayed in the house.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Sometime prior to 2016, according to you, you borrowed some tools of your father's.
That's correct. I actually
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the tools that you borrowed from your father were left in the marital home 2016, 17, 18. Your father died in 2019. You were divorced in 2000.
We were divorced in 2019 was the final judgment.
And then things sort of got away from you. So now we're in $10,000 worth.
Yes, ma'am.
Ridiculous. Let's start out with ridiculous. Where were you in 2019?
2019 is when my father died, and shortly after he died, I was taking care of his affairs, and we still had an ongoing court case that consisted of our minor children at the time, and I was under advisement of my attorney.
Don't tell me what your attorney advised you. It's hearsay. You did nothing with regard to the tools. In what year did you borrow the tools from your father?
It was 2013. I brought the tools over to my storage shed, and...
Mr. Scruggs, you gotta let it go. You haven't had the tools in 7 years. You've been out of the house since 2016? 2016.
What, Your Honor?
And you've been, look at you, and you've been living. Who is this?
This is my current wife.
So, you got divorced, you remarried. When? That's a yes or a no.
Yes,
you found time to get married.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a big wedding?
No, ma'am.
You had a small wedding. Do you have any children?
Yes, ma'am.
With your current wife?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
One child.
How old?
She's 5.
So you managed to have a baby. Well, I'm suggesting to you, sir, how many different jobs did you have since 2016?
I've had 2 different employers.
Since 2016, so you also looked for another job and found another job. So let's see. You got married, you had a child, you changed jobs, but all of a sudden in 2023, the tools are important. Now, how many children did you and the defendant have?
2 children.
How old are they?
I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old.
You pay child support?
No, ma'am.
How come?
Because one of the children lives with me full-time.
For how long?
She's lived with me full-time for approximately 3 years.
But when you and the defendant separated, she was living with her mother?
Only for a short amount of time.
How long?
Probably about a year. And I paid support during that time.
And the other child?
Is 45-55 split.
So that's why you don't pay child support?
Correct.
And do you work?
Yes, ma'am. The reason we were not able to do anything about the tools was that she had an order of protection.
The tools are stupid.
Was that she had an order of protection against him.
The tools are stupid. Orders of protection don't disqualify you from coming to small claims court.
They said that it wasn't able to.
Oh, no, what's a they? Oz? You were allowed to come for small claims court, file a petition and say, these tools belong to me. He didn't do it during the divorce. He didn't do it before your wedding. He didn't do it after your wedding. He didn't do it before your daughter was born. He didn't do it till after your daughter was born. She's now 5 years old. It's 10 years after the tools were moved from your father's house into the marital home. That would be a fair statement. 10 years. You said 2013. We're now in 2023.
Correct. And, Your Honor, I do have here where my dad filed a police report where he was trying to recover the tools.
Well, unfortunately...
And the defendant here obviously lied to this officer here and told them that
So what? I want you to forget $10,000, sir. It's not happening for you. Now, she can't sell something that doesn't belong to her. And in what year did you sell the tools?
I sold the tools. Our divorce was signed in 2018. They had gotten married. He'd quit paying a mortgage, so I had to find a way to pay.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't you just tell me, in what year did you sell the tools?
It was on and off between August and October of 2018.
So you sold them piecemeal?
Yes, ma'am.
And you remember that, so you must have put an ad someplace.
I put an ad on Craigslist because I needed to pay the mortgage, and I didn't only sell his tools, I sold jewelry that was mine.
I get it, but you sold it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have an inventory about First of all, they weren't his tools, they were his father's tools. But I've asked him whether or not he was an only child. He is an only child, so he would stand to inherit these tools unless there was another child that he doesn't know about because his mother predeceased his father. So,
Your Honor, I do have an inventory from that.
I don't care. Understand this. I don't care. How do you know it was $1,000 if you sold them over a 3 or 4 month period? And if the answer to that is put on the table for my children, that's not an answer.
And later today.
I do have a witness that I brought with me, my daughter, who actually did see.
You sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Be very careful, Miss Vieira. Are you sure you want to put her?
Andrew Scruggs claims his ex-wife, Lori Watzinger, wrongfully sold his father's tools and kept the money.
You let it lapse too long. Your father died 4 years ago. You and the defendant are separated for 6 years. The tools were there for 10 years. Courts don't care. We use a whole bunch of things, statute of limitations, we use latches, we use all kinds of terms when people don't act quickly to assert their rights to something. Because we don't want to be bothered with what happened 10 years ago and 12 years ago with this kind of nonsense. We do it with certain things that are important. Crimes are important. So sometimes we let statute of limitation money that you got for selling the tools. Now, according to you, you sold all the tools for how much?
$1,000.
And how do you know it was $1,000? Because you say you sold it over a period of time.
Because I have the paperwork where I had submitted so many payments to the mortgage because I sold them just to pay the mortgage and to feed the kids.
Listen, I'm going to get out my violin, madam. I asked you a specific question.
Yes, ma'am.
My specific question is, how do you know it was $1,000 if you sold them over a 3 or 4 month period? And if the answer to that is I don't know, or I pulled out the number from my behind, then that's an answer. But not that I sold the tools to put food on the table for my children. That's not an answer. How do you know it was $1,000?
Because I had put that money into the bank. I paid the mortgage with it.
Your Honor, you're exactly right. The defendant here is a liar and a manipulator.
Just a second.
And she will tell you whatever she thinks that you want to hear.
Well, that's true, sir. And I don't believe she sold the tools for $1,000, but I don't know that.
Because
And you wait,
just a second.
Just a second. I guarantee you.
Oh,
I guarantee she made $13,000, $14,000.
No, that's possible, sir. Prove it. Proof. Just a second. It's your burden of proof. You have to prove to me that she sold them for $13,000. And even then, you're late in bringing this suit. But you can't, don't care. You're not following me. Courts, not me personally, courts, I am the court. We don't care because what you did was wait too long to assert a claim. You waited too long. According to you, you had COVID and the pandemic came in between and, you know, having another child and getting married to somebody else. All those were reasons you had personal issues why you didn't assert your rights in a timely fashion. So we're not going back to try to recreate something that you can't recreate. And neither can she, actually, because you don't have to keep track of something that happened 3-4 years ago.
Well, even the agreed,
you have to understand.
Well, even our agreed judgment that she signed, I've texted her not 3 months ago trying to retrieve items.
Just a second. You have a judgment of divorce that says in the judgment of divorce she is to return the tools to you.
No.
Okay.
The tools are nothing in that judgment.
Nothing. You sold them for, and I'm not sure that that's what you sold them for, but he waited too long. And the only thing that I can establish at this point is that you sold somebody else's tools for $1,000. That's it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
The defendant, she obviously is a liar and manipulator, and she got a lot more than even the $10,000. And these were what I considered family heirlooms.
No, actually, no. I've got the documents for that.
Even after my father died, I looked at her and said, you know, we need to just fix this. And I came to her and said, you know,
because he can't let me go.
If it's a matter of money, let me give you the money for the tools. And she still was selling the tools to, we think, her best friend.
Because they don't want me happy.
I'm sure glad that it's over, and hopefully we can coexist and take care of our son that we have together.
I'd like to be friends. I mean, for the children, anything to make the children happy.
You know what's more fascinating to me than anything else, and I have to when we leave today, I'm going to go back and look up the doctrine of latches.
It was a brief footnote, I think, in one of our case books.
Right, because we're talking, which was a formalized statute for certain causes of action, and you had to bring them within a certain period of time. That, I'm sure they taught you in law school. But I seem to remember, Sarah, there was a doctrine of latches which discusses why you're supposed to bring an action in a timely fashion.
More of a common sense argument as opposed to a
preservation of
statute.
evidence, because people do away with it. And this is a perfect example.
I think they call it ripeness now, but same concept.
Maybe.
More of a way for judges like yourself to be able to use common sense in cases like this and say, there's no evidence that's going to be preserved 10 years later. You had all these opportunities. Common sense tells me, therefore, it's not ripe. And I think it's a good doctrine because although there might not be a set statute for this particular cause of action, it doesn't mean that evidence just appears out of nowhere that you're going to be able to use.
That you don't preserve.
Exactly.
That you don't preserve it. And certainly he made a whole lifetime for himself in 10 years. Divorced, remarried, had a child, had changed jobs, changed careers.
A lot can happen.
Late fees and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2175, Grimm versus Lee.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Miss Grimm, in what state do you live?
Missouri.
In what county?
Jackson.
You have a daycare center?
An in-home childcare, yes.
For how long?
I started September of 2022.
What is your house like?
I have a single-family home with a finished basement and then like an attic type. It's 2 bedrooms.
House has 2 bedrooms?
No, up in the attic has 2 bedrooms. It's technically a 3-bedroom house, but it has made 6 rooms.
And how many children do you have?
I currently have 7.
How old are they?
14, 13, 11, 8, 5, and 3, and 18 months.
3 and 18 months.
I'm sorry, she's 4 now. She just turned 4.
So the older ones go to school. Does the 5-year-old go to school?
Yes.
And the 8-year-old goes to school?
Correct.
So you have 2 little ones at home?
My 4-year-old goes to early childhood, half a day.
So you have 1 child at home during the day?
Correct.
And 1 half a day?
Yes.
And you have 3 children?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
I now have a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 5-month-old.
And those were the children that you enrolled in her daycare center?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Grimm, what kind of licensing do you have, an application that do you have to make in order to run an in-home daycare center in Missouri?
So in the state of Missouri, as long as you have under 6 children, you do not have to have a license.
As long as you have 6 children in total in the house, or 6 children
that I'm watching?
That you're watching?
Correct. Because my school children are not considered watching, like under the law.
Well, you certainly have to watch your 18-month-old.
Yes, he's the only one. That's why I've always kept 5 children or less.
It is your claim that Miss Lee entered her children into your program. She paid you for a certain period of time. She owes you for 2 weeks.
Correct.
And were those 2 weeks that her children were actually, and the children were in your program?
Correct.
Miss Lee, were the children in Miss Grimm's program the last 2 weeks in October?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Did you pay her for the last 2 weeks in October?
No, ma'am, I did not.
How much were you supposed to pay her?
For the last 2 weeks was supposed to be $600 because our agreement was $600 every 2 weeks.
Okay, so it was supposed to be $600.
Yes, ma'am.
So now the ball is in your court so far. Ms. Grimm, we're not talking about a late fee. We're just talking about these 2 weeks.
Correct.
First, tell me your reason for removing the children.
I removed my children out of her care because my children, every time that I picked them up, it was either they were harmed or injured, or my son, my 3-year-old, would tell me something had happened while I was gone at work in her care. My son had told me on numerous accounts that she hit him herself, and then he also told me that her 15-year-old son, or 14, I'm sorry, had also spanked him. And when I did ask him, or I asked her actually, I said, "Who is Trey?" Because he said, "Mommy, Trey hit me. We were getting in the car." They normally do help me get in the car with my 3 children, seeing I have one who's barely walking.
You get going all over the place.
Yes, ma'am. So they normally help me get in the car with my children, so they were outside with us. And my son said, "Mommy, Trey hit me like this." I didn't know any Trey, so I asked her, "Who is Trey?" And she said, "That's my son." And he said, "That's me." He was standing right there next to her. He said, "I'm Trey." And I said, "Bryson said that you hit him." And he said, "Yes, I hit Bryson." He said, "I popped him because Bryson wasn't doing right. Bryson didn't want to go to timeout."
On what day was that?
That was on October 20th.
That Trey, your Trey?
Yes, ma'am.
Slapped the 3-year-old. It said that he slapped the 3-year-old. You let him stay there for an extra 2 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Just that's it, yes. Now, where were you working that you had your children in daycare?
I was working as a CNA.
What is that?
A certified nurse's assistant.
Where?
It's a
Nursing
like a
home?
rehab. Yes, ma'am.
When did you start working there?
I started working there in September.
September of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Beginning of September?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you stop working there?
I stopped working there October 27th. That was my last day.
If I were to call, would they tell me that they terminated you or you quit?
I quit.
Did you quit on the 27th?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about now? Are you working?
I am.
Who are you working for?
I work through a temp agency, working per diem at different locations as a CNA.
And who takes care of your children?
My stepmom. My children,
Just a second. And when did you start that job?
I started that job about 4 weeks ago.
So in December?
Yes, ma'am. Late November or so.
You left the children there until the end of October. It couldn't have been so disturbing for you, madam, to leave the children there until the end of October, another 6 weeks, if you felt as if they weren't getting adequate care. And if you did, that would be on you.
Shanice Grimm claims her client, Dallas Lee, refused to pay for child care services. Dallas is countersuing for lost wages and emotional distress.
So a relative has been taking care of your children?
Yes, ma'am. Not all 3 of them. I had to send my 2 sons because I had to rearrange my daycare situation. I had to send them back to Texas to be with their dad.
So 2 of them went back to their father?
Yes, ma'am.
And who do you live with here?
I live with my dad.
What does he do?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's in the house?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to tell me why you didn't pay her for the last 2 weeks.
So my children began in her care September 12th. September 13th, she sent me a text message while I was at work, and she said, I want to let you know Lil Mama was bit today by my 1-year-old on her cheek. She sent me a picture. I have this.
Not interested. I mean, it's not that I'm disinterested. It's that don't show me anything from September, madam. You kept your children with her into October and through the end of October. And if anything was so concerning to you that you thought your children would be at risk, I'm certain that you would have discussed it with your father, and your father would have said to you, don't speak. And your father would have said to you, if you have a problem with the children, don't let them stay there. What you did, okay, I can see that you're dying to tell me something. What?
Yes, ma'am. My daughter had no other choice but to keep her children in care because I work a full-time job.
Let me explain something to you, sir. Your daughter was living with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. There is always an alternative, sir. I have young grandchildren, and I would say if I was legitimately concerned for their health and safety, I don't care what it is, stay home and take care of your children. You'll have a roof over your head until you find appropriate daycare. And if you didn't do that, then you're not much of a grandfather.
Well,
you can't use something that happened in September or early October to say, well, that's why I didn't pay the last 2 weeks. So you can't make excuses, sir. I'm telling you, I'm a grandmother and I've had little children. I don't care what you had to do. Quit my job, whatever that job is, and say, we'll all stay home and take care of the children until you find, or you stay home and take care of the children. I'll provide you with always a choice when your babies are concerned.
In our estimation at that time, we were giving her some hard life lessons because she does now have 3 children, and there are going to be some difficulties in this living situation. There are going to be some things. So what we're doing, we're giving her some tough love and saying, hey, you cannot give up just because the chips are down or because things happen. You have to try to figure things out.
Well, that would be on you. That's not on her. This is not her daughter. It's your daughter.
Absolutely.
And your grandchildren, sir.
Absolutely.
And if you want to teach her some real hard lessons and say, you got to stay with the daycare, even though you're dissatisfied.
We said give her a chance because it was the first day.
So.
It was the first incident, first day. We said give her a chance. Things happen sometimes.
What I don't want to hear is from you, who seem like a very intelligent man, a working man, is my daughter had no choice. Your daughter has a choice. Her choice is to say to you, Dad, please, I have to find the right daycare. I have to stop working at this job. I may need a month. You may not have liked her previous irresponsible behavior, right?
Correct.
But the deed is done. She got 3 young children.
Beautiful children.
Right? So what you do is when you have 3 young, beautiful children, you protect them.
Absolutely.
And if you're not smart enough to protect them yourself, you got to rely on your father who's smart enough to do that. What I'm saying to you is your daughter used this lady's services and she has to pay for it. She may not send her children back, but your statement that you were so anxious to make to me, which is my daughter had no choice, she did have a choice, sir. She did have a choice. Before I would let my children stay in a place where I actually believed that they were being abused, because that's what she's suggesting. I mean, she's not suggesting that this young man, who I'm not condoning hitting a 3-year-old, gave him a slap on the rear end. I'm not condoning that. But there were no injuries to him. I don't know whether you've done it. I don't know whether she's done it.
For the first incident, what we were trying to teach her is that you don't just throw in the towel, because Ms. Grimm was just starting her service up. And
September 5th.
So we understand that there are going to be some hiccups and some things that she has to fix as she comes across them. And so she's a young lady. My daughter's a young lady. So as an older man, I'm trying to support 2 individuals to build their lives up. And so I told my daughter, I don't like that she was bitten, but at least she came forward very quickly and told you. So leave them there for now. And if anything else transpires, then we can start to look at things then. Yes, ma'am.
Who do you work for, sir?
I work for the Veterans Administration.
And how long have you worked for the Veterans Administration?
21 years.
Do you get paid every 2 weeks?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say your boss at the VA all of a sudden decided they didn't like the work you were doing. And you left and they owed you 2 weeks' pay because you had actually worked for the 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
And you sued them for those 2 weeks. You worked there. You said, well, we didn't like the quality of his work for those 2 weeks. Well, then you fire him. But you pay them. It's like going to a restaurant. My favorite analogy is you go into your favorite restaurant where you get a steak. And you order a steak, medium, Pittsburgh medium. Steak comes, you cut into it, you take a bite. Oh my God, you say, I don't like the way this tastes. You take the plate, you spit out the bite if you're smart. Call the waiter over and say, this is a bad steak, right?
Absolutely.
And the waiter takes it off the bill or you order something else. Now you cut into that same steak. You taste, you say, this tastes terrible. Maybe the next bite will taste better. Before you know it, you've finished the whole steak. Waiter comes over to take your clean bite and say, it's no good. I'm in your corner. Send it back. But your daughter ate the steak. She used her services for 2 weeks and didn't pay her.
Well, we can't say that she used her services because there are other pieces of evidence that we have.
Well, you mean you're talking about that sometimes she left the children with her husband?
Yes.
Yeah. Baloney. Your daughter had the benefit of daycare so that she could work. If you're not satisfied with the service, you stop using the service. If you continue to use the service despite the fact that you're not satisfied with it, you gotta pay for it. That's America. You got paid, your father got paid, she gets paid.
Shanice Grimm has accused her client, Dallas Lee, of refusing to pay for childcare services. Dallas claims Shanice wrongfully disciplined and neglected her children.
Your daughter had the benefit of daycare so that she could work.
Absolutely.
And she had the benefit of daycare from this lady that enabled your daughter to make money.
But if we're talking breach of contract, the contract was breached when the husband watched the child. And
now you're not teaching your daughter responsibility. Now you're making excuses. Now you're not teaching your daughter responsibility. Your daughter worked to make money. You worked those last 2 weeks, didn't stay home with your grandchildren. You made money.
Absolutely.
The only one that didn't make money and had her 3 children for those 2 weeks was the plaintiff. She ate the steak. She used the service. She didn't have anybody else. It's not as if, well, I had to hire somebody else to take care of the kids the last 2 weeks, even though it was in my deal. So that's why I'm not paying them. She worked, you worked, she worked. And if her husband, if she ran out to the store and left her husband, unless you're telling me that that was such a breach of the agreement that your daughter took the children out of her program. Did she? I'm taking my children out of the program. Dad, can you help me out for the next couple of weeks until I find something else? But you can't eat the steak, which she did. Now you can sit down.
Can I say one more thing?
Not if you want to continue to look foolish. Now you're not teaching her responsibility.
Well,
now you're not teaching her responsibility. I don't want to have to teach you responsibility.
Well, you don't have to. I'm a veteran. I know what responsibility is, but when you are promoting your program as one thing, but your service is another, I cannot say that if Bobby Flay is cooking the steak.
It doesn't matter who was cooking the steak. It was whether you ate the steak. It's whether you ate the steak.
I get what you're saying, Judge, but if it's promoted as Bobby Flay cooking it and Bob Berger cooked it, and I don't like the taste, then those are two different things.
Oh, no, sir. If you're promoting Bobby Flay as cooking the steak and you find, or the hamburger, and you find out that Bobby Flay's younger brother was cooking the steak or was cooking the burger, and either way, if the burger is no good, you're not going to eat it. But you can't eat it and say, well, I really thought I was getting a Bobby Flay hamburger, and I didn't get a Bobby Flay hamburger, so I'm not going to pay for it, even though I ate it. Now you can sit down. How much is 2 weeks' worth of care? $600?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $600. You have a counterclaim. Counterclaim is ridiculous. Money owed for lost wages, emotional distress on behalf of the children. You shouldn't have emotional distress on behalf of the children, madam. You're their mother. The first time you had an inkling that you felt that your children, your young children, were being neglected in the plaintiff's care, what you should have done was remove them. Remove them. First time them, you found that the baby, the little one, was bitten by her little one. You say, that's not watching them carefully enough, because they, I think, are supposed to be separated, correct?
Yes.
No, we were all in one room, so they weren't having to be separated, because with me only having less than 4 children, there was no way of separating because there was only one me.
It's a big responsibility to take care of little children.
Correct.
My daughter shouldn't have been in his reach. She did tell me that she left out of the room.
I agree with you.
She left out of the room is what she told me, Judge. So that's actually not true. She told me that she left out of the room and went to the kitchen.
What day? Give me the date that happened.
September 13th.
You left the children there until the end of October. It couldn't have been so disturbing for you, madam, to leave the children there until the end of October, another 6 weeks, if you felt as if they weren't getting adequate care. And if you did, that would be on you. And maybe a little bit on your father. Because if you told him about it, he said, oh my God, that's terrible. Take my child out right away. All 3 of them. But you didn't. You left them in there September 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, all the way up until the end of September and the end of October. That's on you.
Actually, she did not have them in the end of September because she was suspended from her job. So they were gone for 2 weeks in September.
Were you suspended from your job?
I was. I had to...
That's my question. You were suspended from your job. When you were suspended from your job, did you take the children out of daycare?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's reasonable. She didn't give you a problem with that, I assume.
No.
And you didn't pay for those 2 weeks?
I did not.
Great. Well, these 2 weeks you're going to pay for. Because
I don't believe I owe her anything.
I don't care what you believe. If you're not listening to what I'm saying to you and you're fixed in your opinion, that means you haven't learned anything. Your father tried to teach you a little bit of tough love. What I'm telling you is, if you work, you get paid. If you're not satisfied with this, pay for it. That's America. You got paid, your father got paid, she gets paid. She didn't get paid for the 2 weeks you took your kids out. Didn't say to you, well, you have to pay me anyway. I have to keep this open for you. That was very fair. Took the kids out, didn't pay. You left your kids in, you pay $600. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
I am a little upset she didn't see things my way.
The judge was kind of in my favor for the majority of it.
You know, her leaving my children in the care of her 15-year-old son and also her husband.
Then why did she continue bringing her children to me for another month?
Also, my son letting me know that, you know, she hit him.
I have never touched her children. I could take a lie detector test to prove it.
It was pretty difficult for me because I didn't have any other choices. I didn't have anyone else who could help me with keeping all 3 of my children while I work.
She actually never gave me excuses. She actually just told me she was going to pay me.
Life is not easy.
If you work, you should get paid.
But you get back up and you keep moving.
My generation, I'm not sure about yours, I haven't had much experience in yours, but in mine, I think we confuse having to make a hard choice with being out of options. Here, I felt for the defendant. She had to make a hard choice. But even when her father came up and felt the need to burst out and say, my daughter had no options, she had no choice. Well, she did have a choice. It was a hard choice. You had to send your 2 older sons to live with their father and find a sort of mediocre at best childcare situation. But you made the choice to have those 3 children. And when you have children, you make a commitment to make the hard choices to benefit them.
In their best interest.
In their best interest. And if you're not prepared to do that, then